What is up, my adoring audience? You've stumbled upon the Normal America Show. I'm your host, robnoerr. Great to be here as always. Thank you so much for being here. Even those of you that just come for the intro music. Again, that's Track Tribe. As You Were is the name of that tune, so check them out. I really enjoy that intro music. What a great day. What a fantastic day. It's actually been a hard day for me. Work's been a little difficult. And then we had problems with the supposed installation of our flooring that was going on in our house. So for the time being, our carpet's a mess because there were problems with the foundation and what have. So the installers were unable to proceed even though they had ripped up the carpet that was already there. Boom, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum. Yeah, Aftershock says, no more intro music, I'm out. I just put it on. We do a karaoke stream, right? I'm sure that'll be outlawed soon too, right? The future we're heading to, it's just like, it doesn't, crimes no longer exist, right? As far as, is the action illegal? It is, are the beliefs of the person moral or not? Are they along the party line or not? So murder's not illegal, theft's not illegal. It's just having wrongthink is illegal. And then we go from there. So I don't know if I could do karaoke. That might be deemed illegal. How's it going? It was a rough day. So I wasn't home, obviously, as it works. So my wife had to deal with all that good stuff with the flooring. So bummer. I get home from work tomorrow, so that's something I'll be dealing with this week. We'll see what I could do. As the least handyman in the world, let's see what I can get into trying to solve this flooring problem. So, yeah, Lavin, we could talk. I'll give you my stream of conscious thoughts on the indictments and things like that. I do think there is something unique about this indictment that's worth talking about. And then I'll do some I told you so's and stuff like that. But first, we'll give people a chance to come in here and get settled in. If you missed the show last night, I thought it was a good one. I love arguing with people I disagree with, and sometimes you get the opportunity to talk to someone who sort of smugly thinks that they... let me explain this. I think that I've explained this before. To me, I would rather someone hate me than pity me. I find the idea that someone pities me to be contemptible. I don't like it because, to me, pity implies that the person doing the pitying feels that they are better than the person they are pitying, the subject of the pity. Now, I know that that's not always the case. So don't get me wrong. But I think that and I've mentioned this before, when someone interacts with me on this space, I treat them like I would anyone else interacting with me on this space. It's one thing if you are in a social situation and you end up talking politics to someone who really doesn't care about it and it's really not something they've looked into. I totally get that. I deal with people like that all the time. I deal with truck drivers like, I don't know shit about politics, but I'm tired of these e-logs that I have to do. And let me tell you, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of political. You have to do that because of regulations that were passed. But they, so I don't blame them. I'll tell you a brief story, right, that sums this up. So an average person, particularly when I was debating in college, I don't expect them to be on a level with me because there's probably a ton of things that they're good at that I'm shit at. And so if you're not, if you've never played a video game and you sit down to play a fighting game with someone who plays all the time, you're probably not going to sound that good. Who could blame you? But the people that get into this sphere, that's like, this is my job, I'm a streamer, I talk about politics, I do these debates and stuff, I'm going to treat them like I would anyone else. And if they suck, then it will get pointed out. I'm not going to take it easy on them. So I'll tell you this story. This is a true story that happened once. I can only imagine what it's like to be like a boxer or an MMA fighter or something like that. Like, I would guess if you're out socially, particularly if you're somewhere where people are drinking, people probably call you out all the time, right? Oh, I could whoop your ass. But I bet it happens all the time. Now, I'm not a boxer or an MMA fighter or anything like that, so I haven't had that happen. But I have had you're a debater, let's argue. That shit happens all the time to me. all the time, and 95% of the time it's awkward as shit, right? And you're like, nah, I'm good, because what good's going to come of this? It's like, dude, we're here for someone's wedding. I don't want to talk about politics. Tomfoolery. I would debate tomfoolery on Biden's laptop. Absolutely. No problem. I'll get a hold of the Crucible. Someone will moderate it. I'll message Tom. What if he agrees with me, though? I don't know what his position is, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure he doesn't. Anyways, it's one time when I was debating in college, we had a party. Actually, it was right after I was done. So I'd made it to the national debate tournament. That was pretty good. And we had, my roommates had a party. And so there's a bunch of people. There were a bunch of people I didn't know. And there was this girl there, and she's like, oh, you're some... Keep in mind, my roommates were also debaters, so she's starting on all this. Oh, you guys think you're so smart, you're debaters. Let's debate. I'm like, no, let's just play beer pong, let it go. She kept going on and on and on. Oh, you know that I would be better than you, and you know that I'm smarter than you. I was like, fine, what do you want to debate about? Go ahead. What topic do you want to talk about? She's like, Democrats versus Republicans, blah, blah, blah. What, you're probably a Republican. I was like, yeah, I vote Republican. Though I hate them. I'm like a Ron Paul supporter. I'm like that. But yeah. She's like, oh, Republicans are terrible. Democrats, blah, blah, blah. And you have to understand, this is maybe 2008, 2007, 2008, something like that. And I was like, why do you vote for Democrats? What's your big issue? Well, the Iraq War. I said, okay, well, the Democrats voted for the Iraq War. No, they didn't. I was like, yeah, they did. That was George Bush. I was like, right, Bush was president, but in the House and the Senate, most of the Democrats, with a few notable exceptions, went along with it. So if that's your big issue, are you at least supporting, like, Democrats that are challenging those ones, or what? She says, no, they were all Republicans. And I was like, no. There were Democrats that voted for this. And this is what she says to me. This is someone who was going to kick my ass in a debate and was obviously smarter than me when it came to politics and debating and stuff. She says, and I follow, nuh-uh. Bush was president, and he put all of those Congress people in. And I paused for a minute, and I was like, so you're telling me that every House of Representative member and every senator is appointed by the president? And she said, yes. And I said, get the fuck out of my house. And I did. I kicked her out of the house. I was like, you are no longer welcome in the house. And everyone's like, you can't do that. I was like, yes, I can. Because I'm not going to listen to someone come in. I can handle someone who's arrogant and who knows what they're talking about. I can handle someone who has no clue what they're talking about, but they're humble. But I can't handle the dumbest people in the world that are so arrogant. So I kicked her out of the house. Her friends didn't like it. I kicked them out too. So that's a true story that happened. My roommates were pissed because, of course, you know the story. One of my roommates had a crush on one of this girl's friends. So by me kicking all these girls out, then my roommate was like, thanks, dude, you blew up my spot. Hey, that's life. I paid the rent. Hit the bricks. That's how I felt like last night, where it's like, that's all I could stand, and I could stand no more, right? It's like, okay, this stupid bullshit last night, I should have just cut it off when the dude made the comments he made about people that are assaulting children and how he would allow his child around someone like that. I thought that was grotesque to the point where I couldn't even wrap my head around it. So I just said, just move on. So, as this was going on last night, indictment business was coming in Georgia. Where do we even begin with this? Aftershock already mentioned they released the indictment online. I saw that before I started streaming. And then they said, no, that was a fake document. That was a mistake. And then they released the actual indictment, which was basically the same document, just with more attached to it. The problem, of course, would be if you released it before the grand jury voted on it, that would be pretty corrupt. Now, if I put it in the most charitable possibility, it would be this. That this was the document that they would be voting on. And so they released, that's why it looked exactly the same. if I'm being charitable. But then their defense of it, where they were like, that's a fake document. That was their defense. That's garbage. It's not. It is clear that this is a naked political prosecution. Of course, what sets this one apart from the others is the vast lengths that they're willing to go. And it's sort of setting a precursor for something else you're going to see. There is going to be more indictments, and they're going to come from Jack Smith's office. And Jack Smith is going to indict people for seditious conspiracy, additional people. So to be not just Trump, but people surrounding Trump, his lawyers, pundits, and things like that. You'll start to see the Steve Bannon-esque people, the people that do stuff like me, except on a wildly larger scale. So people like Steve Bannon, or you might see people like, those at Veritas, people like that. You'll start to see them suffering civil consequences like they're attempting to do with Tucker Carlson, but also see them suffering criminal consequences. So, but that RICO statute where it indicted, 18, 19 people along with Trump, that's what made this unique, because they're officially sending the signal. You can't question the establishment anymore. You can't question elections. It is now criminal to do so. You can't tell people, watch this hearing in Georgia. That's criminal. You can't do that. And that's ultimately what they're setting up. They're setting it up so they could do whatever they want in elections from here on out, and you can't question it ever. There's a solid chance this will work, by the way, because the people that have the ability to reach people by the very nature of that probably have something to lose. For example, I'm pretty articulate, and I'm someone who I think communicates this stuff well, but at the end of the day, I don't have a big reach. If I did have a big reach, then I would probably have a lot of money, and I'd have a lot of money to lose, and I would have a lot more people looking into me, and things of that nature. It's the same reason that why, if you were qualified, would you ever want to be nominated by a conservative to the Supreme Court after what happened to Kavanaugh? Why would you want to go through that? Why would you want your life ruined? Why would, if you're an independent billionaire who wants to, be someone who challenges the establishment orthodoxy, why would you ever run for government? You're going to be shredded. Now they'll just lock you up. I saw that Hillary laughing about it. It's funny. It is funny. But that's what's unique about this, is that they're officially saying, lawyers can't give recommendations, right? That's what's good. Thank you so much for the follow. And that's what they're setting up. They want to set up, just like it's happening in Ukraine right now, right? Just like happened in the Soviet Union. That's what they want to set up. They want to make opposition to the party illegal. That's it. It's literally that simple. And it'll continue apace now. It'll just get worse and worse and worse unless someone credible stands up to it. Not to bury the lead here, the chances of that happening are slim to none. Again, I said this the other day when I was on, the Kick or Keep panel. I would say the chance of any Republican winning the 2024 presidency, I put it at less than 1%. So they'll get away with it. Now, that doesn't mean it's the end. It doesn't. What's going to happen is, as people get what they want, and that's what's going to happen, these people, particularly the vocal left-wing people, they will get what they want, and the policies that come about that will be globalist establishment policies that will fuck over the average people, and so those people will be in for an awakening. The very tools that they're embracing now eventually will be used against them and people they like, and it's going to eat their own. And it's predictable, just like you could see with the woke authoritarian left, that eventually it would turn on itself and start eating other people on the left. And we can see that's what's occurring now. It's the same with this corrupt establishment left. It'll do the same thing, So, we'll see what happens. And there's always a chance. Look, I was also black-pilled about the 2016 election. I said there's no way Trump wins. I was wrong about that. But I've been pretty right about almost everything. Pretty right. I've been talking about corruption more than any other person I know. While Ben Shapiro in 2017 and 18 and 19 was telling his audience and the audience at the Daily Wire, well, let's not say that the Russia collusion investigation, let's not say that that's corruption. No, don't go that far. Let's leave them go through with this. I was telling you how corrupt it was, based on publicly available evidence that I was able to see. I was talking about corruption being the biggest issue in the country. I think I was the first person I heard though I'm sure there was someone that said this before me, but I didn't see it, that was saying disband the FBI. I was saying that since like 2018. And I wasn't just saying it on the channel. I was also saying it when I ran for Congress. I was also saying it when I talked to people in politics at the state level and here in Pennsylvania. And they still, to this day, they think I'm nuts. They really do. What else can you say? They're going to... You do understand this, right? The Republicans are going to vote to fund the DOJ next month. They're going to do it. It's going to happen. You understand that, right? Thank you so much, Nico, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I'm going to start collecting a lawyer fund for when I'm inevitably indicted. So we'll keep that money over there for the lawyer fund. Of course, who will want to be a lawyer of someone like me? Because they too will be indicted for being my lawyer. So it'll be difficult. It'll probably cost a lot of money. But as Republicans said, no, let's work within the system. As the QAnon people were saying, trust the plan, Rob, trust the plan. Bill Barr's, he's a white hat. He's one of the good guys. Here I was, a lone voice telling everyone what was going to happen. Even when Trump was supporting lockdowns and mandates and things like that in March of 2020, and I was like, it's going to cost him the election. I talked about how they were changing the way we vote because of this. I was like, that's going to be the beginning of the end. I was told by a bunch of Trump supporters, you're a sellout. Okay. I told everyone after January 6th that this would be used to criminalize people that supported Trump. They would not only go after Trump and take him off the board, but now they would make it criminal to endorse him. Or if not criminal, which it's even gone faster than I would have thought making it criminal. But certainly you would have been a pariah to endorse him culturally. That was sort of the movement was going. I told you Trump was going to be indicted 4 times. I told you that over a year ago. That's what was going to happen. That's exactly what happened. The only possibility that I'll be wrong at this time is if they just bring more indictments. Then you could say Rob said 4 times, but it was 6. Maybe. I was right about all of it. I really was. No, I didn't see that aftershock. It's where we're at. And they'll probably... the chances of them failing, of these establishment people failing, are less than 1%. I'm sorry to say. Now, if I'm just riffing... Here's my prediction of what's likely to happen with Trump. I think that the game with Trump has always been the same thing. Shut up and go away. They want to send a signal to everyone who would question the establishment that they will bury them. They'll ruin them. They'll do it to RFK, too. They will. In various ways. They'll try to bury his name first. They'll try to bury him culturally. And if that doesn't work, they'll smear him as a Russian agent, and then they'll bury him legally. Doesn't matter. The intensity and how much they go after you is equal to the proportion of how much they fear you. Right? So if they feel that you actually could get into power, they'll increase their intensity. So they'll call Jill Stein of the Green Party in 2016. They'll say maybe she's a Russian agent. But they're not going to go super hard against Jill Stein because they know she can't win. She's not a threat to them. But they will go after people. If RFK becomes more of a threat, then they'll go after him harder. And that's what will happen. That's how it's going to work. Why is it successful? It's successful for the same reason that the Bolsheviks were successful. The Soviet Union was successful. And again, I just got finished there a couple months ago reading the Gulag Archipelago. One of the passages, you just have to read it. I don't know what else to say. It's maybe the most important book I've ever read in my life. One of the passages that stuck with me that I was kind of surprised about was, just a recap of what the book is. Solzhenitsyn, the guy who wrote it, he was in the Soviet army. He was charged. I think he ended up spending like 15 years in these gulags, in a really shitty one at first, and then like a transitory one, and then he got like a cushy gulag, if you could call it that. And he basically wrote this book like on scraps of paper and memorized it. He used like a rosary to help memorize. He wrote it basically in poetry. so that he could memorize all these passages. It's an incredible human feat. And because of him, we know the horrors of the Soviet Union and what was going on in these gulags. Towards the end of the third volume of it, one of the things he does is he's sort of defending himself from contemporaneous criticisms of him. And one of the contemporary criticisms of him, like this would, I guess, be in like the 50s or maybe even the 60s, after he was out, was like, why did so many people, millions of people that were ran through these gulags, why did they let it happen? Why didn't they revolt? Why didn't the people in the gulags rise up? And he gives some examples of when they did just that. But he says that what separated what was going on in the Gulag Archipelago versus political prisoners of Tsarist Russia, or political prisoners that you saw throughout elsewhere in the world, was that the populace had a sort of sympathy for those political prisoners before. So if you were a political prisoner in Tsarist Russia, and you escaped into a rural town, a farm, there was a solid chance that the people there sympathized with you and were going to help you out. They knew that you were a political prisoner, but not with the Gulag. The Soviet Union had convinced people totally in their life that communism and the party was the way to go. And that anyone that was against that was a damage to their way of life and an enemy of the state. So where do you go? Even if you break out, where do you go? You can't succeed in that environment. When the culture is so accepting of the authoritarianism, there's almost nothing you could do except make small inroads culturally and intellectually. That's it. But it took decades for it to start to have inroads. That's where we're at. The truth of the matter is, I don't know the exact number, but I will say the number is over 50% of people that vote Democrat right now that literally would sentence Trump to prison for the rest of his life without seeing any evidence whatsoever. It literally could just, the prosecutors could go in and just play a clip of Rachel Maddow saying, Trump's a stooge of Russia, and they'd be like, yeah, rest of his life, send him. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit if the crime matches up with the legal statute and does it proceed beyond reasonable doubt. They don't care at all. At all. Our side doesn't do that. We don't. I don't. If I got summoned to a grand jury today and a Democrat politician was accused of corruption, I would legitimately try to do my duty as an American, listen to the facts, and only vote guilty if I thought they were guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's what most people that are independent or people that lean right would do. That's what they would do. You can't... Inevitably, the side that's willing to use any means necessary to achieve their desired outcome will win out. They'll never be happy with the end result. They'll lose in the end. Their quality of life will decrease. The very tools that they use will one day be wielded against them or the people that they support. But they'll win in beating us. They'll win in keeping us silent. They will. It's just the truth. Why aren't a bunch of Republican attorney generals out there today saying, fine, we can play that game? It's not because Democrats don't commit crimes. For example, you think that they can't find a Democrat that's committed a campaign finance crime? Happens all the time. Slap on the wrist, fine. No, they are going to win. They are going to win. I'm 95% certain of it. That doesn't mean forever, but they're going to win in the foreseeable future. So why aren't conservative attorney generals doing this? One, because they're like, we're not going to just say, there's the person, now find the crime. We're not going to do that. If we see evidence of a crime, we might look into it. But we're not going to say, oh, we don't like this person. We don't like Chuck Schumer. So just find a reason to get a warrant to raid him, to spy on him, whatever. Then we'll find a crime later and we'll charge him. They're not going to do that. And the other reason is because a large portion of the establishment Republican Party, the reason that you don't hear Mitch McConnell out there today, the reason that you don't see Ronna McDaniel out there today, is because they like what's happening to Trump. I saw someone put it and said it like this. They said, all Republicans care about, the reason that Republicans are silent is because they're interested in self-preservation. Or the reason they'll only speak up for self-preservation. I said, no, that's the exact opposite. Because they're not concerned about Democrats beating him. They're more than happy to be a minority party. Mitch McConnell says, great. The Republicans are super happy to be the minority party and just say, if we were there, things would be different. But governing's hard. So they'll run on repeal and replace Obamacare. Okay, now you got the presidency, the House, and the Senate Republicans. Repeal and replace? Oh, shit. We didn't really have a plan. We kind of thought Hillary would win. Then like, they're more than happy. By the way, so are the Democrats. They're more than happy. They got this big pie that is all the power. And they're happy to share it with each other. And they'll have little infighting, but as long as it's just them eating the pie. But what they don't want is a third group coming in and getting the pie. They don't want that. That's the real threat to their self-preservation. Mitch McConnell, the Republican donor class, are more concerned about populists within their own party, such as Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, than they are about Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or Dianne Feinstein. That's the truth. And so they're like, good. Take down Trump, take down MAGA. They would, if they thought that public perception within Republicans was enough anti-Trump now that they would be able to consistently win their elections without someone challenging them in primaries, they would be out there today going, lock him up. Yep, lock him up. MAGA's a cancer. Some of them are saying it. But you would see the leadership. Ronna McDaniel would be saying it. They just realize at this point that a large portion, maybe at least 50%, if not more, of the Republican Party are people that support Trump, or if not supporting Trump, people that are sort of populist and did support Trump and supported the populist message, but are now fed up with Trump for various reasons. So people that understand how corrupt this system is, even if they don't like Trump, or they still like Trump, that group of people. So they can't come out, like, they'll do the Kevin McCarthy thing, some of them. They'll be like, oh, this is politicized, that's ridiculous. You know, we're going to send Lindsey Graham out and Hannity for some strongly worded letters, you know, he'll be announcing, and then we're going to have some boss tweets, man. Woo, boy, our fingers are going to be burning with all the typing of the tweets we're doing today. Yeah, we're doing it, man. But they're not doing anything substantive. And then some of them won't even go that far. The ones that don't have to worry about that, the Mitch McConnells, the Ronna McDaniel, they won't even say that. They won't even pay lip service. They don't give a shit. Good. It's good for them. It's not that they're cowards. It's not that they're inept, though they are cowards and they're inept. But the fundamental driving reason for why they're not doing anything is because they like what's happening. Is that true, Buzzard Bob? That's what's going on. And they want it to be more than Trump. They want it, the signal that's being sent from the establishment on both sides is, don't you ever think about running for office if you're anti-establishment? Don't you even think about working for someone who's running for office? Fake elector, go to jail. Activists that worked with them, go to jail. See your last message. Do you think it's a mix of do what you can, where you can? Let me get your thought. What do you think about the problem in which, a lot of people don't say anything in fear of losing their job, livelihood, and risk? Should you do a mix of do what you can where you can, or should we do what's right no matter what? No, I'm not going to tell you to do what's right no matter what. That's a loaded question, because doing what's right, what's most important in your life? I'll tell you right now, what's most important is my family. If I knew that doing this show tonight would land me in prison for the next 10 years, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything immoral. Right? I'm not calling for violence or anything like that. But if I knew, hey, just calling this authoritarianism out will send me to prison for 10 years, I wouldn't do it. And someday I might stop doing it because it might be evident that that's what's going to happen. And I'll do it with a clean conscience as well. I really will. You might say, how? You would leave the country, just slip into authoritarianism? I would. I absolutely would. Because we kind of deserve it, don't we? Because when I was speaking up for years and years and years, no one wanted to listen to me. Or very few people wanted to listen. So what am I going to do? It's not just me. It's if I was single and I wasn't married and I didn't have a kid, that's a different calculus. But my priorities have changed. People used to ask me this, and I've seen other people be asked this, like, what do you do if, you need a degree for whatever job that you want to have? So you got to go through some woke college, Do you fight with your professor? No, don't. Just say the bullshit they want to hear, get that piece of paper, and move on with your life. But Rob, that's letting them win that battle. Yeah, I guess it is. What's the alternative? You speak up, nothing gets done, you fail, now you owe a bunch of money, and you don't get that job that you wanted. Great. What's up, Bandit? Break me out, great escape movies. Yeah. Well, maybe you have an opportunity. Did I spell indicted wrong? Maybe. Oh, I think I spelled it right. Anyways, whatever. So I said balkanize. That's what people like. I've gone back and forth with this. I say get out of the cities. But then we lose. Yeah, we did lose. We did. That battle is over. Temporarily. It's over. We lost. Non-salvageable. You live in a city like Portland. Someone comes up and steals your car. You try to fight back. You go to jail. That's it. But if you see someone beating a woman on the street, you should intervene. No, you shouldn't. If you're in those areas, you'll go to prison. Your life will be ruined. Acting like calling out authoritarianism as a YouTuber in the U.S. will get you locked up in the near future is ridiculous. We literally had a guy who's looking at, 15 years for a meme? Remember that guy? He was found guilty, too. He's looking at 15 years. If I would have told you 5 years ago, if you're a lawyer of a politician, and that politician asked you for advice on how to challenge an election, you could go to prison. You would have said, that is outrageous. That's where we're at. They literally raided pundits like Steve Bannon. They raided journalists like Project Veritas. And I know crazy tactics, you'll say, but that was all warranted. That was all warranted. Right. They literally, what was the civil suit of Alex Jones? What's he owe? Like 100 infinite trillion dollars or something he owes? And you'll say with each of those, but yes, that was well deserved. And that's exactly what will happen when they start going after people, lower level people. Now, I don't think that I'm even at that next level they will go to. I'm no Steve Bannon. I'm no Project Veritas. There's a lot of people in between me and them. I'm a pissant on the wall to them. There's nothing to gain from taking out someone who's talking to 40 people. We had person after person publicly calling for the death of Donald Trump and supporters when Trump was in office. I don't recall the FBI ever showing up to their house and shooting them. But this, 70-year-old guy the other day, guns a-blazing, don't ask questions. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Judah. They're going to jail over a meme. Of course, leftists put the exact same meme that guy had up, targeted at right-wingers, but that didn't matter. They didn't go to jail. You see? Oh, you don't like the Jones lawsuit. But you would have said 3 years ago that couldn't have happened. Here we are. Again, the level of the tactics they will use is commiserate to how much of a threat they see you as. I'm not a threat at all. So the chances of me ever criminally being charged, very low. The chances of me being shadow banned or permanently banned, very high. It's very high. But the chances of me being criminally gone, it wouldn't be worth their effort. This is exactly what happened in the Soviet Union. Exactly what happened. They said, yeah, okay, maybe it's not a good thing that they're going after these high-level opposition political parties that are against the Bolsheviks. Maybe that's not a great thing. But, they'll never just go after people on the street. And then 15 years later, you were literally going to a gulag for 10 years because your picture of Stalin was dirty and your neighbor reported you. And all the while, people are saying, you're crazy, it would never get there. That's what they were saying then, too. And then that's what happened. Now, take polls with a grain of salt. But you should look and see if polls match up for the things that you're able to see with your own eyes. A YouGov poll said that 29% of Democrats said that if a person wasn't vaccinated, they should not be allowed to have custody of their children. Over 50%, I believe was the number, said that they should be, if you're not vaccinated, you should be locked in your home and not allowed to leave. Guy was on CNN the other day saying 30 million, from the polling they did, they estimate that 30 million Democrats say that the use of violence and force would be justified to stop Donald Trump from becoming president. What did he admit on audio that was a crime? Go ahead. Tell me what he admitted on audio that was a crime. Right, that's right, Nick Linebacker. So when people challenged electors in the past, when you look at the fact checkers, that's what they'll say. Well, they knew it wouldn't work. It was more just ceremonial when they did it. Showing off classified material to normies. Okay, let's say that happened. We know plenty of people that have intentionally showed classified material to normies. For example, every single leak that came out of the Trump presidency was someone showing classified material to journalists, right? They never sought to break attorney-client privilege. They never charged journalists and things like that and put the pressure on them to alleviate those sources. They never even had credible investigations to the people that were leaking that stuff. We know, for example, that Hillary's team saw classified markings on their documents, sent them out anyways, and people like Anthony Weiner, that was engaged in child exploitation, actually had those classified materials on his computer. But even aside from that, him saying, check this out, I shouldn't be showing you this is private, we have no evidence that what he actually showed was a classified document. We also don't have any evidence that even if it was, that he didn't just wave it and they didn't get a look at it. Like, for example, Trump, one of his faults is that he's super arrogant and a bragger. Do you think that he is incapable of doing something like this? Yeah, they're out to get me, and the prick said that I was the one that was bloodthirsty, but actually it was them. They're the ones that's bloodthirsty. That's who they are. And like, you can see right here, this document, I shouldn't be showing you this. This is a classified document. I shouldn't be showing you, but it shows just how insane they were. It actually shows that everything they're saying is a lie. Well, that's just a stupid... Nothing, just notes that I was taking earlier. So no, it's not admitting to committing a crime. And as always, the problem, I'm not saying Donald Trump didn't commit any crime. The Mar-a-Lago case is actually the most persuasive thing that he's accused of, if he instructed people to intentionally violate warrants and subpoenas. I happen to think that's a big deal. I do. I don't see proof based on what's publicly available that absolutely happened. But that's something that, it's the same standard I had with Hillary. Hillary's server, although bad, I tended to agree that that's something that happens all the time. The way Hillary did it, my personal belief is it was intentional, that she wanted to avoid Freedom of Information Act request and oversight by having this private server so she could delete what she wanted when she's, illegally getting lobbying efforts for the Clinton Foundation and shit like that for a 10-year Secretary of State. But I can't prove any of that, and so I have no problem with James Comey not charging her. I thought the way in which he did it was stupid, but anyways. But the idea of her team deleting subpoenaed evidence, that is a crime. That should have been charged. It wasn't. Instead, they were given immunity. That's the problem I have. The rest of the shit's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. The real problem isn't Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. The real problem is a two-tiered justice system from the most powerful intel and law enforcement agencies in the history of the world deciding we're only going to go after one side that we don't like and we'll protect the other side. And that's exactly what we're seeing. No, it's not whataboutism in the sense of Trump. Now, for my audience, do you hear the NPC lefty here? Do you hear it? Have you heard crazy tactics before? You might say, oh, it's the same lefty that comes in with a different name. No, they have hive mind. They have their NPCs. They literally are incapable of formulating their own thoughts. They're so stupid, the only thing running through their mind the entire time is Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad. But what about Orange Man? Orange Man, gotta get the Orange Man. Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad. He's bad, Orange Man bad, Orange Man. We need 20 indictments, 40 indictments, 100 indictments, 500 indictments. Orange Man bad, he's bad, Orange Man bad. Indict. We need more indictments, Orange Man, but the Orange Man's bad. The Orange Man's bad, he's bad. The Orange Man, he's bad, he's bad. They could be like, oh, jaywalking, Trump committed jaywalking, and through this law that we didn't realize was still in the books in 1870, we're going to throw him in prison for 10 years. And he'd go, that's on the books. That's all this. It's whataboutism to say otherwise. Orange Man bad. So he should go to jail for 10 years. It's on the book because Orange Man bad. So let me break it down for you, crazy tactics. Let me break it down for you, right? While you're focused on the Orange Man, right? While you're looking at him and saying, well, alls we care is if he broke the law. You are literally the person that would have been looking in the Jim Crow South and seeing a racist police department. And this police department could have only arrested people for traffic violations that were black. And you could sit there every day and see white people committing the same violations, even worse, speeding more, but the police let him go. But they pull over the black person, and someone like me would go, this looks really bad. We have a two-tiered system here that's intentionally going after one group of people, but it's allowing this other group of people off the hook. And you would go, oh, so whataboutism? Wasn't that black guy speeding? I don't know, maybe they were speeding, but there's a far greater problem here. But that's whataboutism. The black guy was speeding, right? Maybe he was speeding. Okay, then that's all we're talking about. He was speeding, he needs to go to jail. The black guy needs to go to jail. Right, but the two tiers, that's whataboutism. That's whataboutism. That's who you are. That's who you are. And you are literally identical to, I would say at this point, 100. For someone who's a small streamer, I've had a remarkable amount of people come in and literally say the same thing. None of you make different arguments. It's always the exact same argument. The exact same. So, for example, we could have the Russia collusion story. That it was the biggest story in the world for 4 years. Oh, Trump's an agent of Vladimir Putin. Russia collusion. We need to investigate until the end of the world. And I could have outlined since 2017, which I did, of how corrupt this investigation was, and showing that there wasn't any proof of it, and showing the fact that the intel agencies and the media and the Democrats all went all in with these unprecedented investigations, including getting FISA warrants to spy on a president of the United States, and how damaging that was to our country. Everything I said was true, and I was told at every moment, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're wrong, this is absurd, oh my God, tinfoil hat. And then once it was made public that all this happened, you know what people like you said? That's a long time ago, time to move on. Now we're talking about Stormy Daniels. Now we're talking about the Mar-a-Lago case. Or if I talk about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and things like that and the laptop story and being censored. Or if I talk about the censorship that occurred with the pandemic and the lab leak origin and stuff like that. Or if I talk about how disastrous lockdown. All of it is, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're ridiculous, and then when it gets proven to be true, you're like, but right, that's all whataboutism. To talk about that stuff, that's whataboutism. We're focused on Trump. Trump's not even the president. He's not even the president. But none of you give a shit. None of you give a remote shit when it comes to that obvious two-tiered system. You don't give it. Don't try to make yourself sound reasonable because you're coming off as the asshole that you are. I'm on your side when it comes to Russia collusion. Okay, so you're on my side. You think that the FBI was corrupt and worked in tandem with Hillary Clinton, accusing Trump of exactly what they knew Hillary was doing. But instead of investigating Hillary for actual Russia collusion because she was colluding with the suspected Russian spy, they instead put that suspected Russian spy on their payroll so that they couldn't be interviewed or anything like that by any sort of oversight, and then used it to spy on Trump for it. You're on my side there. I'm on your side there, Rob. I'm on your side with that corrupt Democrat media and FBI collusion to take down someone, to spy on a president. I'm on your side there. But I also think that we need to completely trust them to be fair and impartial now in investigations going forward. But I'm on your side there. Yes, that's also an argument I hear all the time. I'm doing great, Brad Zitt. You said you were on my side. Would you like to call in Crazy Tactics? And we can see, we'll see how much on my side you are with Russia collusion. Would you like to do that? He either did the crime or he didn't. So we're back to the same thing. So while you're focused on, well, I just say, and these people try to come off as impartial, right? They'll always try to do this. I told you, go back to when I was on the panel with Brianna Wu. This is another tool in their toolbox. It's one of only 2 or 3 things they do. When they realize that they're outclassed on the facts of any particular thing, right? What they'll do is they'll say this. They'll try to make themselves sound like they're centrist or they're reasonable. They'll say this, right? They'll say, well, yes, you're right. Maybe Hillary should have been charged. I guess if they would have charged her, fine. But we got to charge Trump now. Okay, let's take a step back. All right, if you feel that way, I don't really give a shit about Hillary getting charged. The obvious question that would come about is, well, why wasn't she charged then? Why'd the FBI approach that massively different than they approached the Trump investigation? Because that's who I'm concerned about. Trump will be dead within 10, 15 years. He certainly won't be president within 8 years or so, even if he would win this time. He will come, he will go. The FBI will remain. They'll still be here. So I'm talking about this system. I've been talking about it for years. And literally, what we see with people like Crazy Tech, and I'm glad you're here because you're representative of basically everyone that I talk to on the left. You'll be like, but Orange Man's bad. Shouldn't he go down? I hear this all the time. Well, what we should start, like FARA violations. Well, they took down Trump's campaign manager for failing to register foreign lobbies. And they never do that to anyone. Well, maybe they're starting now, Rob. Okay, let's accept that. Fine, they're starting now. Oh, what's that Manafort worked with? The Podesta group, Hillary Clinton's campaign managers group? Did any of them get charged? They committed the same crime with the same people at the same time? Oh no, they retroactively filed paperwork. And but we had to take Manafort. And it's always excuse. You always try to, yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, with that Russia collusion, yeah, that was bullshit. I agree that, oh, well, it's done with. Anyways, did Trump mishandle classified documents? What, you mean like we know that people did over and over? But with him, it's like, well, yeah, we had to pierce attorney-client privilege, and yeah, we had to subpoena, videotapes, and we charged low-level people, and, we threw everything at the wall, and we raided his house, and we took his passport, and we took ball bats, and we took napkins, we just took everything. We were like, just raid everyone that he knows, and violate attorney-client. Oh, look, he mishandled classified info. Well, he did it. And I'm like, that's fine. Let's give that treatment to everyone. No, that's whataboutism. There you go. Crazy Tactic says, but if you want people on the left to go down for these crimes, why shouldn't you Trump? Perhaps you missed the part where I said, you're so interested in getting through your NPC talking points, you don't even listen. But you don't have to because all the institutions are on your side, right? So, for example, I said, I sort of agreed that because everyone does this shit, that it would have been unfair to just charge Hillary Clinton with the mishandling of classified information, even though I thought the way she did it was worse than usual, and my suspicion is that her intent was actually nefarious. I don't think that there was an ability to prove that legally, and so I had no problem with her not being charged with that crime. That's what I said. My standard has always been very simple. Going back, you could see me writing about this in 2017, 2018. I was having big debates with people online about the question of, is it a crime for Don Jr. to try to talk to a Russian in Trump Tower to get dirt on his opponent? I say no, that's not a crime. It might be immoral, it might not be the best idea, but I don't think it's a crime. Now, it could be a crime if you do things after it. For example, if that Russian gives you dirt and you say, okay, let's keep this secret, and then we're going to spring it, and then we'll pay you a bunch of money, or we'll give you a contract once we're president. That would be a crime. That's sort of a quid pro quo. That's the shit Joe Biden did, right? That's why what Biden did, I'm not interested in Hunter Biden, I'm interested in Joe Biden. Trading favors to benefit his family from corrupt foreign oligarchs. That's the problem, right? But my issue with, I said, no. If Hillary's team, which we now know happened, was reaching out to Russians like Igor Dushenko to get dirt on their opponent, no, I don't think that's a crime. I don't think they should be charged. Just like I don't think Don Jr. should be charged. However, if your standard is, I think both would be charged, I disagree with you, but I accept that. I accept, like, well, at least you're being fair. That's fine. But for some reason, it's not that you triggered me. I'm excited. I talk like this when I'm excited because it makes the show a lot better when there's a foil. And as good as I am at knowing all the talking points of the left, it's great for my audience to see someone like you come in and literally say the same shit that I tell them every day is the only thing people like you say. So it's not that I'm triggered, it's quite the opposite. I'm not in defense mode for Trump. I don't give a shit. I don't care. If Trump goes to prison tomorrow, it does nothing for me. In fact, the person that got arrested for the meme, I said it at the time, that's closer to me. That affects my life more than Trump getting arrested, because now someone who puts memes out can get arrested. That's closer to what I do. If Trump, for example, tomorrow, if we find him stumbling down Hollywood Boulevard, snorting coke, and he punches someone in the face, and it's all on tape, and it's obvious it's him, and he goes to jail for it, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh no, but that's who I was maybe going to vote for in the 2024. I'd say, fuck him. The problem I have is the fact that there's a two-tiered system. Again, you still don't get it. I can say it as blatantly as possible. I don't give a shit if Joe Biden goes to jail. I don't give a shit if Hillary Clinton goes to jail. I don't give a shit if Donald Trump goes to jail. What I give a shit about is the people that are tasked with sending them to jail are biased. They are controlling our system because they use lawfare. They use leaks to a press that's not really a press, it's propagandists. They have influences in almost every institution in this country that affects our culture. They are all pushing and putting their thumb on one side of the scale. That's the problem that I'm focused on. It's not, well, if you think Hillary should go to jail, then you think Trump. I'm saying the opposite. Am I aware of the superseding indictment? You're probably not talking to me. That's what I want. But people like Pisco, that's on here, Pisco doesn't give a shit about any of that. Pisco is going to defend that system no matter what. It doesn't matter. I've said this over and over. Pisco says the preponderance of evidence is a standard he would need to say that there would be corruption. He's full of shit. You could watch him wiggle is every bit of the evidence. Well, they had to give the immunity deal to Hillary's team. And it's just over and over and over. He doesn't really give a shit. Oh, yeah, they spied on a sitting president, used unverified opposition research that was paid for by his opponent, that lied about paying for it for over a year, that was sourced by a Russian that was suspected by the FBI of being a spy. But, they got rid of those people, so it's all good. It's all good now. No big deal. But Trump, he may have had a classified document at home. Oh, my God, that's a huge deal. That's huge. That's where they are. They don't give a shit. It happened in the past, it's done. Same way with Destiny. That's how they all deal with this shit. All of them. Pisco, a little more ability to argue. And I actually think he's a person I enjoy talking to. And I actually, to show how bad my judgment is, I kind of like Pisco. So you can see how bad my judgment is on people. But think about it. Like, you could disagree with my worldview, but it's simple to understand why, if I believe what I believe, what I'm trying to say. If I believe the FBI is like, we're not going to go after anything Biden did or anything Hillary did or anything that establishment people do, but anyone that's anti-establishment, we're going to go after. We're going to go after them, right? And so then they're just violating attorney-client privilege, and they're raiding their houses, and they're finding FISA warrant, they're doing whatever to investigate, overturn everything in their life, and then they're like, look, we found some what we think are crimes. And let's say those crimes even happened. There is a more massive problem. And that's exactly what's going on. And they'll always be able to, like, they're always, because, and it's the same thing every time. I know Pisco said he's going to be right back, so he probably doesn't hear it. But every time I talk to Pisco, what it comes down to is, at the end of the day, he could use different terms. He could try to spin it all. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is prosecutorial discretion. Well, it's up to the people that make these charges whether or not they want to charge or not. And so it just so happens every time when it's Trump people, they throw the book at them. But when it's not Trump people, they go as easy as possible. It just, every time it breaks down that way. Every time. It just so happens. Just so happens. Every time. And yes, it might seem like a coincidence that the people at the top of the FBI that are making those decisions clearly hate Trump, and they're talking about insurance policies to stop Trump, and once they're out of office, they can't wait to talk about how shitty Trump is, and signing documents saying that things that are obviously true, like the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian. That's just a coincidence. That's all a coincidence. That's all it is. It's just a coincidence. And yet, still, we get people like Crazy Ted. So that's just, that's what about it. And that's it. Imagine that if it was like, imagine that your brother's the sheriff of a town, right? And you're constantly arguing with your neighbor, right? And your brother's totally corrupt. And he's just like, yeah, point to me who you want to arrest, and I'll arrest them. And so you're arguing with your neighbor, and your neighbor's like, well, I think these groups are corrupt or whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, none of them got arrested. Huh? None of them got arrested. And you're like, yeah, but your brother's clearly just arresting people that you don't like. Yeah, whatever, they're arrested. Let's just leave the system play out. Let's leave it play out. It's whataboutism to talk about other stuff. Let's just leave it play out. Leave it play out. That's all. Now, what I think's likely to happen, here's just kicking it through in my head. There's still going to be this bargain. I'm not strawmanning. I'm not strawmanning at all. Your argument was literally, but if you think Hillary should be indicted, don't you think Trump should be indicted too? And I explained to you quite literally why that's not what I think. And I talked to you about how I have a problem with the two-tier justice system. But I understand another crazy tactic that you lefties like to employ is to throw out words like gish gallop, straw manning, and things like that because you can't make a substantive argument on the things that we're actually talking about. But feel free to call in crazy tactics and we can see how well you do. Calling you a lefty is law. Okay, maybe you're a rhino. You're clearly someone who is a complete fucking idiot. Or, most likely, is you're someone that's biased against Trump. Maybe you're a Mitch McConnell fan. Maybe you're a Joe Biden fan. Maybe you're a Bernie Sanders fan. I don't know. But you're someone who is I hate Orange Man. But why don't you call in? You can tell me about how, actually, I'm a lifelong Republican. You might be. You're probably more of a Republican than me. Great. Be happy to talk to you. Or are you one of those people that don't own a phone? I get that a lot. I can't call in. I don't own a phone. I don't own a computer. How are you typing? I'll be fair. I'll give you a chance to speak. I do to everyone. I let some fucking moron last night that said he'd leave someone who found their infant child be attractive, he would let them around their child. I let him speak. Don't get worse than that. I'm not strawmanning you into a position. Let me make your position right now. An audience, I want you, Crazy Tactics, to tell me if I'm strawmanning you, and I want the audience to tell me if they think I'm strawmanning. Your stance is this. Okay, maybe there is the corruption. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not talking about all that. But if Trump committed crimes, he needs to be held to account. And I think that you are engaged in whataboutism by talking about this other stuff. That's your stance. That's your position. Yeah, people don't have to call him names. You don't want to call in, that's fine. I wouldn't want to call in and debate me if I was him. Saw this today. There was a guy on Twitter today. All Rob does is talk about crazy conspiracy theories. That's it. Okay, so you're not pushing for his conviction. So what are you saying? That the charging was okay. Fine. Of course, Pisco, you agree with the charging of Trump. You always have. Of course. You also agree with the FBI and all the shit that they've done. Of course. Because you're a partisan hack. If Trump would pay for opposition research from a one-time suspected spy from like China that was never verified, and then he had his DOJ and FBI use that to spy on the Biden campaign, you would have said that it was outrageous. Not just you. It would have been the biggest impeachment and conviction in the history of this country. It would have been 24/7 on the news for months on end. How do I know that? Because they did it with the Stormy Daniels case and with having classified documents. So if he literally was weaponizing the FBI to spy on his opponents in that manner, clearly it would have been the biggest story in the world. He would have been impeached. He would already have been indicted for all of this. It would be all that we hear about. No one would even give a shit about these stupid nonsensical indictments that we're seeing. That's all they talk about. But Pisco is absolutely fine with it. Didn't have a problem. Oh, well, James Comey's gone, so it's over with now. Did not give a shit. And we talked about this contemporaneously. You'll remember one of the first interactions I had with Pisco, where I asked him, I said, do you think before they get a FISA warrant, the FBI should attempt to verify information? And he rambled on for 6 or 7 minutes and was like, blah, 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 and couldn't answer the obvious question. And Pisco should know better because he's a lawyer. And by the way, he does this sort of stuff. Right, he comments and stuff, so he would know better. It's not like I asked someone on the street this. I asked someone who's interested in debating. He couldn't give a clear answer because he knows it's indefensible. He knows that. He absolutely knows it. But because he's a partisan hack, he has to make excuses. Well, maybe it wasn't the most proper thing, but what do you want to do? It's over and done with now, and but Trump had mishandled classified info. That we know. And it's always the same type of shit. Well, prosecutorial discretion, It's always the same. So this guy says, well, let's see, should they attempt to verify? Let's say that I said the number is 30%. Did they do that, Pisco? Did they do that? So they get this document, and it says Trump was his team was working with Russians, and they were promised like stocks of Rosneft to the tune of like $14 billion, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Carter Page may be a spy. We need to get a FISA warrant to spy on him. That's what they do, right? So for anyone, they should have a threshold of attempting to verify the information before they submit it, right? For example, if I write a document that say all of Joe Biden's team are Chinese spies, if Donald Trump pays me to write that document, is the FBI just say, good enough for us, let's spy on Biden's team? No, they wouldn't. They would have to say, wait a minute, we have to look into this first. So here's what we know now that the investigations are done. Here's what we know the FBI's attempt at verification was. They asked Christopher Steele and the suspected Russian spy, Igor Dushenko, can you verify any of this? We'll pay you $1 million, I think is what they were offering Dushenko. He was unable to corroborate any of it. Then they let it go. They didn't proceed to talk to him and say, how did you get this information or anything like this. Then they got the warrant. Then they got the warrant again. And then before they got the warrant the third time, they finally got around to talking to Igor Dushenko. So the guy making the claims, finally, after getting the warrant twice, they're like, maybe we should talk to that guy. And that guy told them, well, most of this was just kind of talk around drinks and, it was just sort of rumors and things like that. And so it was they didn't verify any of it. And so they went to the FISA court and they said, well, we talked to the primary subsource and we think he told the truth. But they didn't say, and what he told the truth about was that I couldn't really verify any of that. They left that part out. And then they proceeded to get the warrant twice more. And Pisco's defense of that's like, well, what do you mean verify? Surely they don't need to get the warrant if they've 100% verified. How about 50%? How about 40%? How about they at least picked up the fucking phone to do an interview with the guy that was the primary subsource? How about that attempt at verification? How about that? How about they offered him money and he was unable to verify anything? That. But you don't have a problem. You see, he'll argue semantics. Well, what do you mean verify? 90%, 80%? Do you see how it works? I don't know. Let's say 75% verify. Are you in Australia, by the way? If you're still in Australia, be safe when you fly back, and I hope you're having fun. My dream is to live in a fake Australia. No, I'm not. I might be a little off on the timeline, but that's literally what happened, and you know it. But yeah, we could talk. I actually can't promise I could talk later this week because I have some flooring issues at my house, so I might be working on the floor all week. So I don't know how much I'll have to stream. Either or, Rafa, but they won't do anything about it. So yeah. Anyways, where I want to live is Walkabout Creek in 1980s, Crocodile Dundee, Australia. I don't think it exists, though. It's fictional. But I think me and Donk would get along. I do have a friend, Rational Wrongthink, that lives in Australia, like kind of in the bush. He seems to be doing well, so. But yeah, despite the fact that Pisco is a partisan hack, which he is, and that I get the better of him 99.9% of the time that we debate, I still wish him well, and I hope that he's having fun in Australia. Still talk shit on him, though. It's not my fault he can't call in, so I'll still talk shit, Thank you. Appreciate it, Pisco. So anyways, this person on Twitter that's arguing with me, right? Rob just outlandish bullshit conspiracies. He's unable to prove anything. That's what he goes with. Let's see what he says here. Just so you can get kind of an idea. Someone asked if anyone's debated, they linked me in counterpoints. Have we debated Destiny on the indictments and stuff? And I said, Destiny won't debate me one-on-one. He won't. He'll do the panel shit. Stuff like that. This is what this person says. It says, it's hard to debate someone that thinks thousands of people involved in those orgs are lying and corrupt and a giant conspiracy, but some random dude online said something he likes with no proof or backing and is 100% correct and better to believe with 15 IQ. And this is always empty platitudes, always. Here's things to look for. You're a conspiracy theorist. That happened with people that Trump appointed. Wray was appointed by Trump. Barr was appointed by Trump. Comey was endorsed by Trump. Rosenstein was appointed by Trump, right? And so they'll just, instead of looking at the actual specifics of what we're talking about, it's just empty platitudes like that. Couldn't have been corrupt because the person that was there was appointed by Trump, or they were a Republican. So it couldn't have been corrupt. It couldn't have been, right? Or it would require hundreds of thousands. Pisco tried this the other day. It would require this ridiculous international conspiracy theory with groups over here and here, hundreds of thousands of people involved in the conspiracy. Oh, it's so stupid. Not so good at talking the specifics, the actual specific, but it's just empty platitudes like that, right? So you can see this person, well, Destiny's not going to debate me because clearly it's just a giant conspiracy theory with hundreds and thousands of people that would have to be involved. I said, I cite provable facts, including from official government sources. You ignore all of them with platitudes such as, that would require thousands of corrupt people, so it can't be true, because you're unable to look at the facts. He says, the provable facts are on the same level as the flag is waving on the moon. Therefore, I conclude the moon landing's fake. I say no. Provable facts, such as Hillary's team paid a suspected Russian spy to make up a story about Trump that he was colluding with Russians. And the FBI knew it, never verified the information, but still used it to get a FISA warrant to spy on Trump's team. Absolute proven fact, but you ignore it because it benefits your side. Oh. Maybe he deleted the rest of what I was saying here. Let's see. And this person says, what provable fact government source shows that Biden has gotten vast sums of money from foreign agents? I said, where did I say that? It's not even necessary for him to be corrupt that he had to personally get money, which is something I want to talk about here in a minute. Though there is evidence to suggest he was the big guy getting 10%. If he was issuing policies that benefit his son, that's corrupt. We know the following. The owner of Burisma told Hunter to call his dad to deal with the pressure. Hunter called his dad. Joe issued a quid pro quo to force the firing of the prosecutor. The pressure on Burisma ended. And then this guy says, you've made these arguments for years, and no one on the left or the right has taken these points seriously. But there's always a reason for conspiracy to believe, am I right? In other words, his argument is, as I point out, we've ignored this for years, so you must be crazy for not ignoring it with us. Then he says, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you understand that Biden, when he issued his quid pro quo, was acting on behalf of the U.S.? The U.S. wanted the prosecutor out. If it had been Obama instead of Biden making the demand, would it have made a fundamental difference? I say, it's okay if Hunter called his dad to get pressure off his company, and his dad did it because it benefited the U.S. How did letting Burisma off the hook help the U.S.? He says, wasn't there a Capitol Hill hearing where people were questioned about these phone calls and every person said the only phone calls Joe was on were casual conversations and no business? But the crazy guy streaming in the streets for years didn't get listened to, so now let's believe it now. I said, no, that's not what Devin Archer said. He said he's never heard him talking business, but the facts that I outlined above were what he said and what we know. You just repeat Democrat talking points and didn't read the transcript or the interview of Devin Archer yourself. He says, I don't believe you. I don't trust your interpretation of what you saw, but I'll definitely rush to look into something that no right-wing news really covered and no right-wing politician used to press charges. I said, your willful ignorance is not my problem. Just like the rest, you can't argue the facts, so you spew empty rhetoric. Literally, what did he say to disprove anything that I said? He made one claim. Everyone said he never talked about business, so that's the end. That's what they testified. No, they said that when they heard them, he wasn't talking about business. But they did say that the facts we know, Devin Archer said that this corrupt guy, Zolchevsky, looked at Hunter Biden and said, I'm under pressure from the Ukrainian government. Call your dad and deal with it. Then we know that he called his dad. Then we know that a couple days later, his dad issued a quid pro quo to get the prosecutor fired. And then we know the pressure was alleviated and Burisma was left off the hook. That we know. Just because the guy said, I didn't personally hear Hunter Biden on the phone with his dad saying, yes, we're going to do it. We're going to get him fired. There's Swedish House. But there we go. Did Crazy Tactics leave and sign in on a different name? Just like the guy last night. It's the same thing. And what this guy resorts to is, well, what if what you're saying is true, then people would have talked about it. Fox News would have been talking about it. Well, some people did talk about it. But again, it's just appeals to authority. That's all it is. That's all. That doesn't mean you couldn't be typing on two accounts. I'm just fucking with you, crazy. By the way, I like that name. Sort of a play on the game Crazy Taxi, I think. Crazy Taxi, good name. Swedish House Boss, NPC number 2, comes in today and says, you never talk about the Trump crimes. Here we go. Right back to the same fucking argument. You never talk about the black guy jaywalking. Right, I'm focused on the racist police department that is discriminating against black people by only targeting them. Yes, but why don't you ever talk about the black guy jaywalking? You see? Thanks, Bazid. Appreciate it. And there you have it. He says, we don't care about Hunter Biden's D. No one does. Only the left cares about it. They care about it because, one, they're mostly sexual degenerates, and second, because they need to strawman and make it seem like that's the concern, because they're facetiously ignoring that the actual crimes that we're talking about is the trading of favors and the selling of access of Joe Biden as vice president, as senator. And that's what we're talking about. Tony Boblinsky, we've known about that since before the election. Here's a business partner of Hunter Biden. Says, before the election, yeah, these emails are real because I was one of the people receiving them. So they are real emails. That's what he said. Yet still the media was like, we don't know. The FBI was like, we don't know. Or at least the former intel of it. We don't know. It sounds like Russian disinformation to us. You got the dude that was his business partner saying they're real. And there was a bunch of corrupt shit, and Joe Biden knew about it, and I, the business partner, personally met Joe Biden and shook hands with him. He was well aware of the business, and he was the big guy that was getting 10%. Now, if that was Trump, if it was Trump, it would be the biggest news story in the world. The FBI immediately would, special counsel launching investigations. They would have called that business partner in and had him testifying in front of a grand jury so fast it'd make your head spin. But with Tony Boblinsky, crickets. They talked to him once for like 2 hours and was like, we'll get back to you. And the FBI never talked to him again. Media never talked to him other than Tucker Carlson. Am I the guy who won the special election? No, I ran for Congress in a special election, but I did not win. Unless you're trying to make some joke. But no, I didn't win. Why am I angry that social media censored Hunter's nudes? I'm not. I'm angry that they censored a story by America's oldest newspaper of the obvious corruption of Hunter Biden and the fact that his father was connected to it. Why are you not angry that they did that? Why are you okay with Joe Biden getting a call from his son who was working with a corrupt foreign oligarch right after that corrupt foreign oligarch told Hunter Biden, call your dad and get these investigations dropped? And then Joe Biden immediately goes and issues a quid pro quo of a guarantee of $1 billion of your tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor that then end results in the investigation into that corrupt oligarch being dropped. Why aren't you angry about that? But I bet you're real angry about Trump paying Stormy Daniels, aren't you? Real angry about that? Oh yeah, he needs to be charged for that shit. Bushcraft, they act like that's what it's about because they can't defend the obvious corruption. So they have to meme their way through it. It's just like, go watch the Kicker Keep I was on. Watch I'm Really Important. Right? That he is a great example. He is just, he's not a talented or intelligent person, right? He is a fantastic example of how left-wingers argue. So that whole panel, all he's trying to do is meme his way through. He has a couple empty platitudes, so anytime I talk about something, he goes, oh, but Trump appointed that guy, right? Or when we're talking about Biden, oh, Hunter Biden's cock, his cock. Or then when I'm like, Professor Robert Epstein testified that Google would be able to manipulate up to 16 million votes. Epstein, talking about Epstein. Rob's a fan of Epstein. Anthony Weiner. He said Weiner. That's it. Of course they did. That's all they do. They tweet about those photos and they go, why is the right focused on it? We're not. You focus on it constantly and project onto us that that's what we're focusing on. We're not. Now, I wanted to talk a little about what I think will happen. I think that because it will benefit them to do so, I think that there will be a movement, a groundswell of sort of popular support of people. It might not be over 50% of people, but there will be millions upon millions of people, more that will wake up every day and be like, holy shit, look what they're doing. They're criminalizing disagreeing with the party. So I think what's likely to happen is, I think it's almost written in stone at this. I'll still fight like hell as far as doing my best to get people registered to vote, to try to win the election here in Pennsylvania, to try to win the presidential election, no matter who the Republican nominee is at this point, barring some exceptions. I guess if it was Chris Christie, I wouldn't give a shit, but I don't think it's going to be him. But nonetheless, so if it's DeSantis or Vivek or Trump, I would, Yeah, right, aftershock. Yeah, that'll be clipped and used in my trial. Overt criminal conspiracy. Rob said he'd fight like hell to win the election. Incitement to violence. Fucking ridiculous. So I think because of that, this is what will happen. They'll win the 2024 election. And then I think, I would not be surprised to see the Democrat Biden or Newsom that wins pardon Trump. I think that's what will happen. They'll pardon the people after the election. That's what I think will happen. And they'll say, and then the talking points from the left constantly, when finally you get any right-winger with some nerve that'll be like, okay, now we're in our state going to investigate lefties, they'll say, this is all political. And on the left, the Democrats, they had them dead to rights, but they let it go. That not like these evil right-wingers, not like them. Here we go again. And crazy. Do you see what I'm talking about? He says I'm strawmanning, right? He says I'm strawmanning. Here he goes right back to the same. You think Trump committed crimes but shouldn't be prosecuted till Dems are, so do you believe minorities should not be convicted of crimes equal amounts of whites in order to bring balance? When did I say that I thought Trump committed crimes? I didn't say that. I said that I'm surprised that this was all they were able to accuse him of. I said that if you say, this is our man, now find the crime, and you use lawfare to investigate him in perpetuity, that is infinitely more dangerous to the country than mishandling classified documents or paying off a porn star or things like that. You continue to hyper-focus that you just want someone to say, you just want the talking point because you don't give a shit. Because the truth is you like the corrupt system. As long as it's benefiting the people that you want or going after the people that you don't like, you're good with it. And so just like the people I've debated over and over again, what you'll say is like, yeah, I'm not really focused on the points you're making, but Trump's bad, right? He's guilty, right? Can you just say that? Can we get that sound point? Can you just say Trump's guilty? Can you just say that? Yes, what I'm saying is, politically, the effects of what Trump's accused of is tantamount to jaywalking. And so, no, I wouldn't be concerned if there is a racist police department that is targeting black people and allowing the people they like, white people or whoever, to get away with crimes. I wouldn't be focused on, but we really still have to get that black guy for jaywalking. We really do. I understand you do, because you are someone who literally is a hack. You're okay, and you don't understand where, well, you don't give a shit. Just like any lefty that cheers for this authoritarian, just like any good communist, they always think that it'll only affect the people they don't like. And so by the time it's turned on people that they support, or they themselves, they'll be like, oh my God, how could this happen? Oh my goodness. There you go. See, he can't wrap his head around it. Wait a minute. It's like, so we're identifying the racist police department, and you want to talk about the racist police department, but you're like, you don't think that guy that jaywalked should be charged, man? Because that's where my focus is. Like, I don't get it. Trump made it easy to make a case. Go ahead, tell me the case that Trump made easy. Go for it. What case was that Trump made easy? Which one? The Stormy Daniels case? That one? Is that the one you're talking about? Or the Mar-a-Lago, or the Georgia case, right? This is literally, think of what someone like this would justify. Hey, listen, if they charge him with 5,000 crimes, and he did one of them, shouldn't he be charged with that one? I mean, who are you to talk about its obvious political order? He should still be charged. We need to focus on, shouldn't he be charged with that one? There you go. Crazy Tactic says, if the racist police department that was only targeting black people saw on camera that the black guy jaywalked, I absolutely support the police department in that effort. Well, thank you for that admission. There you go. That's the type of people you're dealing with. There'll be no justice for Stormy Daniels. Well, that's because the left-wing people that you put up as heroes, Michael Avenatti, robbed her. They can only go after what they can prove. Is deleting subpoenaed evidence a provable crime? Crazy Tactics? Is deleting subpoenaed evidence a provable crime? Investigators say, we're subpoenaing these emails, and you say, okay, we'll get those to you. Oh, wait, we just deleted them. Is that a crime? Just curious. Is that a provable crime? I would say that's as easy as a provable crime as you could get. Right? That's what I would say. Did they charge him with that crime? Did Trump's team destroy any evidence? No, he didn't. No, all of the results, nothing happened to anything Trump. He talked about fake electors, right? Just like the Democrats did in 2016 and 2012 and 2020. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, but it's an obvious crime when Trump did it. He mishandled classified documents. Yeah, just like Democrats and Republicans have done all the time. Crazy Tactics, I enjoy talking to. I think at least he's making some sort of point. Swedish House Boss, I don't enjoy listening to you. You're just a troll. He cheated on his wife. Cool. Have fun talking to yourself. I'm not listening to you anymore. No, I don't think courts properly investigated election fraud in 2020. Not at all. Doesn't mean that there was absolutely fraud to the level that swung the election. Right. Crazy Tactics. Like, why can't you just answer the question? Right? That's a simple question. Is deleting subpoenaed evidence a provable crime? The answer is yes. But you can't say that, right? So asking that question, here's what he says. He says, well, to do so, legitimately in my eyes, they need proof. Well, you have proof. They admitted they deleted subpoenaed evidence. If there are instances of charges without evidence, I would say those aren't legitimate. Right. They admitted they deleted subpoenaed evidence. They knew that it was subpoenaed, and they deleted it. That's a crime. Yes or no? Is that a provable crime? Just curious. Yes or no? The hammers, the phones, and stuff's a little different, but you're on the right track, yeah. I wish I knew more. I don't know. I only know what CNN tells me, Brom. What the New York Times tells me. I just don't know. I don't know. Anyways, Trump jaywalked. Get him for that shit. I don't know. I just know Trump's bad. We need to take down Trump. All the people I listen to say Trump's bad, so he needs to go down. I don't know about the other things. I don't know about that. But here I am, acting like I know when but Trump's bad. That's all I know is Trump's bad. I know he's bad. Just like the guy last night. Same old shit. They never know the details. See, Death? They never do. How many times have I debated someone, they'll say something like this, January 6th, my God, they almost got into our seat of power. The Capitol building, Washington, D.C., the seat of our power, and they attacked it. My God, it's an insurrection. Well, define why, because they didn't have weapons or anything like that. Yeah, but they tried to force their way in. They were going to harm people in our government. So that's an insurrection. Yes, that's an insurrection. Okay, May 30th, 2020. Violent left-wingers that were lighting fires in D.C. attacked the White House. They burned down a guard station at the White House. 47 police and Secret Service agents were harmed. Was that an insurrection? I didn't hear about that. No shit. Really? Please go on. There you go. Crazy tech. Same shit. Brianna Wu, is that you? I guess I'd support going after Hillary's team for that, but it's over and done with now. It's different. It was different when the Democrats did it. And the only reason that they weren't more successful is because for some reason, January 6th, even though we're told that the FBI knew that there was about to be an attempted overthrow of the government, but for some reason they didn't talk to the Capital City Police. And they didn't have the National Guard there, even though Trump requested. Thank you so much, Dex, for the cheer. I appreciate it. I really do. For some reason. And the Capital City Police Chief's now doing interviews saying, I think they wanted a riot, which is exactly what Rob's been saying since it happened. That's what they wanted to happen. Of course that's what they wanted. Look at the mileage they've got out of it. But May 30th, they fucking knew, hey, the George Floyd lefties are here. Shit's about to kick off. So they had an appropriate police response there. That's the only difference. Everybody knows the lefties are going to get violent. When people were boarding up buildings in cities like Portland and New York on election night 2020, it wasn't because they thought that Trump supporters would riot. It's because they were worried that Trump would win again, and once more the left would riot, as they had done all summer. That's what they were worried about. Everybody knows it. We all know it. We pretend we don't, at least the establishment. It's mostly peaceful. But just like that person I was arguing with on Twitter. Well, Rob, if what you're saying is true, then I would have heard about it on CNN and the New York Times. And I didn't hear about it on CNN and the New York Times. And so therefore, I just don't think it's true. It's a wild conspiracy theory. And I could, if I wanted, go through the documents as I've done over and over and over. I could go through, I've done, how many hours of debate with Pisco alone have I done on Hillary Clinton's team deleting subpoenaed evidence? And many people, what's funny is, people will comment on Twitter. They'll be like, I watched that debate you had with Pisco with the Destiny Monitor. I watched it. And you know, Rob, that the deletion of those emails was before the subpoena. No, it wasn't. Even Pisco admits it wasn't. You dumb shit. But you're just talking out your ass. Because whatever you have to say so that you can just project, no, everything the people I like, they did, it's okay. The FBI's reaction was okay. It was okay. I mean, just think of these two stories that we absolutely know. Forget about that for a minute. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the following happened. The FBI, completely aware that Hillary Clinton's team is concocting a story that Trump's team colluded with Russia. They are completely aware that the source for this story that they're paying through an intermediary is a suspected Russian spy. They know that that person is not able or hasn't yet verified any of the information in that document. And yet, to our knowledge, for the first time in the history of this country, the FBI went to a court to get a warrant to spy on a presidential campaign and then a presidential team. If that was Donald Trump, it would be over. Again, they are freaking out over tweets of Trump. They are freaking out over mishandling classified documents. Imagine if they had him dead to rights, that his FBI was working with him to spread a known bullshit story accusing his opposition of colluding with Russia, and the evidence they were using to do that was being paid for to a Russian that they were colluding with. What law was Russia collusion that they were investigating? We had a 4-year investigation into that. Did you say, well, wait a minute, what law is being broken here? That's number one. With the Biden situation, imagine this. Imagine Don Jr. is working with a company in Saudi Arabia. Right? He's working in Sauds. Don Jr.'s there. While Trump's president. And Trump and his administration is saying, that company's corrupt. It's a corrupt company. But my son works there, but that's okay. I don't know anything about it. I just know that company's corrupt, but I don't know about what my son's doing there. And then that corrupt owner of that company told Don Jr., I want you to call your dad and get these investigations stopped. And then Don Jr. called his dad. We don't know what he said to his dad, but he called his dad. And then 5 days later, his dad's on an airplane saying, I want the prosecutor that's looking into my son's company fired. I want him fired or you're not getting this $1 billion. And they say, okay, he's fired. And then the new prosecutor comes in and they drop the cases against that company. What do you think the reaction would be in the press? What do you think the Democrat reaction would be? What do you think the FBI's reaction would be? Just curious. Hey, it's someone saying robnoerr. How you doing, Rob? Great name. Oh, look, it's me. Go ahead. Go ahead with the question. No, I'm not mad about it. I signed in under my name and said hi, too. It's okay. I'm not mad about it at all. I was just making sure someone didn't hack my account. You call yourself robnoerr. I think it's a fine name. Do I think anything's going to come of this indictment? Yes. Well, that's sort of what we're talking about. There is no other person right now. All right, I'm going to go to the restroom real quick. Give me like 2 minutes. What do you guys want to hear? Let's see. Oh, let's play a YouTube video of me, huh? Thank you to my friend Surian's Bot. I don't know what your name is on my channel. I really don't. But I know you're someone that watches me a lot. Surian and Aftershock clip me all the time and then tweet it out so I could retweet it. Anyone who wants to clip my material in that way, it's a big help to me. I really appreciate it. robnoerr's body double's much cooler. So here, you can watch part of this debate that I have with Destiny while going to the restroom.
It's not like you can reverse course on everything at that point. The virus is here. It's already in every state and every community. I don't know how Biden's supposed to just like turn back time on that. In terms of, there's so many, hold on, Jesus, there's like so much like random shit you bring. If you want to like dive into one topic, I didn't know that, also the coronavirus thing is just one part of the administration. And it, like the difference in approach here, if I'm being honest in the debate, I could lie and try to say, oh, well, if Biden would have come in, he would have done. I don't know what Biden would have done 100% as a president, but I'm not here to only compare their stance on the coronavirus. I was mainly interested in like major legislative achievements and foreign policy because it's a little bit easier to compare that on a one-to-one than a coronavirus pandemic that he walked into as it's going on and has already been, in my opinion, botched by the previous leader. But then you're going to say, well, botched how could he have done something differently? And I give you things maybe he would have done differently, but do either of us truly know that? We're both being demagogues at that point. Honestly, we're being honest with ourselves to say anything other than that. You don't know if Biden, but the reason why I tend to side with the fact that Biden probably would have taken it more seriously is because I think that Biden believed that it was a real issue. The Democrats believe that this is a real bad problem. There were Democrat states like New York that were being severely hampered by it. And it seems like Democrats in general in the United States, the voter base, seems to have more aggressive support for measures related to the coronavirus. So that leads me to believe that a Democratic president probably could have handled it a little bit better. It's hard to say, but like when I look at things like, say, the Ebola scare, when there was some French doctor that was flown back, it seemed like Obama took that seriously. And that was like nothing. Like the idea that Ebola was ever going to spread massively in the United States or in Europe is probably not going to happen. It's not the type of virus to do it. But even that, I was hearing Obama take that seriously and was giving public speeches about it, and people seem to be worried about it. When you talk about like black Americans being distrustful of the vaccine, and then you try to pretend that it's because of statements that like Democratic leaders have made, black people have a lot of reasons for why they may or may not trust different systems in the United States. I could be totally wrong on this, but I seriously doubt that the average black American is tuning into CNN to get their political discourse for the day, and then they're making decisions on whether or not to trust the medical system based on what they hear on mainstream media news. It probably has more to do with a history of weird, fucky things that have happened to black people in the United States. Tuskegee is brought up pretty often as an example. I'm willing to bet that combined with socioeconomic conditions, combined with their already adversarial attitude towards the system that is adversarial towards them, is probably going to lead to them to not trust the vaccine or care about it as much as other Americans. I don't know if I'm going to say that I'm going to blame a couple of statements made by Democratic leaders on how African Americans in the United States feel about the vaccine. That seems a little bit silly to me. But
we'll get off COVID.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous on the COVID talk on YouTube. So.
Oh shit, yeah. Okay, well I'll just say this. I'll just ask one quick question then. Do you acknowledge that Biden and people in his administration seemed to cast shade on the vaccine before Biden won? And do you think that could have caused people hesitancy?
I think that there were like one or two statements that I want to say it was Kamala Harris said something about where I don't think they full on said like, I'm not going to trust it, but it was something like it was something that was a little bit irresponsible. I was like, you probably shouldn't have said it that way. But like compared to how much Trump has cast out on everything related to the coronavirus stuff, not even remotely close.
Yeah, but if the big issue is people getting vaccinated or not vaccinated, that specific thing of casting shade, and it wasn't just Biden, it was certainly a lot of his administration and a lot of health experts that they were routinely touting that said it would be impossible. We wouldn't trust this, and Biden made those claims as well. The last thing I'll say is this. Right?
Wait, you said Biden made a claim that he wouldn't trust a vaccine?
Yeah, Biden said, I'll try to find the actual quote. Let me see what I can find. Give me a second and I'll find it, but yeah. Well, shit, now I'm finding. Let's see if I can find it. But the other thing I want to say as I look for this is you say that actually, you know, Biden did a good job meeting his goal of 1 million a day, and he may have even surpassed that. But the reality is Biden's claim to get 1 million a day was already being met basically by Trump when he left office. So it's hardly an achievement that Biden came in and just continued Trump's plan. This is what Biden said in August 6, 2020. The way Trump talks about the vaccine is not particularly rational. He's talking about being ready. He's going to talk about moving it quicker than scientists think it should move. People don't believe he's telling the truth. Therefore, they aren't certain they're going to take the vaccine. And one more thing, if and when vaccines comes, it's not likely to go through all the tests that need to be done and the trials that are needed to be done.
Who is this a quote from?
Biden. And another quote from Biden, September 2nd, 2020. Look at what's happened. Enormous pressure put in the CDC not to put the detailed guidelines. The enormous pressure being put on the FDA to say they're going, that the following protocol will in fact reduce. It will have a giant impact on COVID. All these things turn out to not be true. And when a president continues to mislead and lie, when we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot? You're going to be the first one to say, put me, sign me up. Now they say it's okay. I'm not being facetious. Again, Biden. And there's more if you want.
So I think we're probably on the same PolitiFact article, and I see the
sure.
I see the first statements that you're not reading. So so in terms of what was said on August 6th, right? Biden said the way that Trump talks about the vaccine is not particularly rational. He's talking about it being ready. He's going to talk about moving it quicker than the scientists think it should be moved. People don't believe that he's telling the truth. Therefore, they're not at all certain that they're going to take the vaccine. And one more thing, if and when the vaccine comes, it's not likely to go through all the tests that need to be done and the trials that are needed to be done. I think that early on, and I would have to go back and dig through quotes again because I wasn't ready for a coronavirus discussion, but Trump did talk a lot about expediting the vaccine, and it seemed like there was a lot of political pressure from him that he wanted to get the vaccine out as quickly as possible. If that is the case, then I could understand people being a little bit nervous about it. And earlier, Kamala Harris seemed to echo as much because the quotes for one of her statements was, if the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. So it seems like there was something else there. Now, I would actually go a step farther and say any type of undermining of the vaccine is probably not a good thing, but I don't think that these were necessarily like the vaccine is bad and horrible, but probably more to do with Trump's incredibly obsessive public face of like getting it out as quickly as possible, which I think, I mean, Republicans now are worried about that, right? It's so ironic because when I try to follow down, like, well, who did these arguments end up affecting? If I take you at your word for this and I ignore anything around the quotes, and it seems like Democrats are saying like, man, the vaccine might be rushed, man, the vaccine might be not be safe, it seems like it's all done for political reasons. Who are the people that are making these arguments today? It's not Democrats, it's all Republicans. So the idea that you're saying Democrats made these arguments and they were irresponsible, the only people that echo these arguments are Republicans, seem like they didn't really hit Democrats or weren't a big part of their messaging early on, because all the people that are acting like this and putting these messages out are Republicans that don't want to get vaccinated.
There are very few people in leadership in the Republican Party that are suggesting not getting vaccinated. And the other thing is, when you're the only thing you could tout that Biden would do good versus the coronavirus is his guidance, sort of his messaging. And the one issue that he, and I would assume you, thinks the most important when it comes to vaccine, we could see when it was politically expedient. By the way, Trump was talking about having people be available to have shots by March. That's exactly the timeline that happened. But we had all these leaders, including Biden and other medical professionals, saying it would be impossible to develop a vaccine that quick. That did more harm, even with Trump supporters that still tout to that and say, yeah, even though Trump tells me to get the vaccine, the reality is we had all these professionals saying it would be unsafe to have a brand new type of vaccine like that to come out so quick. And that's one of the big reasons I'm distrusting. Even the Democrats said.
Yeah, but the Democrats aren't echoing that, right? Like these are Republican talking points. Well, you care because your argument is that Democrats caused harm by undermining the vaccine. Well, okay, did that actually happen? And then when I look at the effect on the public, it doesn't seem that's the case. And when I look at other statements that Biden has made, and I'm sure you see these because it sounds like we're on the same page, Biden literally says, charting a clear path of science-based vaccines free from politics. I get asked the question, if the president announced tomorrow that we have a vaccine, would you take it? And then he says, only if it was completely transparent, that other experts in the country could look at it, and only if we knew all of what went into it. Because so far, nothing he's told us has been true. That seems like a fair statement. I still think maybe you probably shouldn't say that. But like when I look at how this has affected the United States population, if we had a ton of Democrats that were refusing to get vaccinated, I would agree with you. It's like, yeah, that you guys fucked up. You caused a lot of harm. But that doesn't seem to be the case. These are problems on Republicans' side. So I just categorically reject the idea that these are like harmful statements that Democrats made, because at the end of the day, it had almost no effect on the Democrat public.
It doesn't matter if it had effect. You think that Republicans don't listen to what the Democrats are saying?
No, I don't. Absolutely not. I don't think so.
Sure they do. Go listen to them.
Wait, so is your argument, I'm just curious on this one. You think that, and I'll even steal it, I won't say this is ridiculous as it sounds. You think that some parts of the reason why Republicans won't get vaccinated is because of statements Kamala Harris and Joe Biden made about the vaccine?
I think it was probably people that were going to be distrusting anyways, but they point as evidence the fact that even Democrats, when it wasn't politically expedient for them, said that there were dangers and it would be impossible to release a vaccine this fast. They point to that and say, see, even they knew. And the reality is, you could say what you want. The guidance was quite simple. We could beat around the bush. We know the truth. What changed when all this, you think all of a sudden Biden was like, and Kamala were like, oh, we have better evidence now that the election's over. Now we think the vaccines are good. No, you know what happened was they knew that COVID was a big weakness for Trump. And so they downplayed him talking about vaccines and that being a potential thing that could help out because they knew that downplaying would help them in the election. They were willing to sacrifice people if it meant helping them in the election. That's what fucking happened. Me and you both know it.
So you think that, so I'm curious on a counterfactual then here. You think that if Trump's election would have continued on, do you think that Democrats would have been undermining the vaccine and that Republicans would be running out to get vaccinated and the Democratic leadership would say, we don't trust the vaccine?
I don't know if it would have been that severe, but yeah, they would have said that there were decisions being made medically that was being rushed through and Trump was influencing the FDA and other places like that. When in reality, we could see that it's the exact opposite. The only people that we know put pressure on the FDA was the Biden administration, which caused the resignation of two of the top people at the FDA being so furious that they were being rushed to produce it being okay for these boosters. They thought that that was Biden putting pressure on. But if you want to keep going COVID, we can.
Wait, hold on. Which FDA resignations are you talking about?
Let me find it.
Yeah, it doesn't... Because I know there were some FDA resignations, but I thought this had to do with the...
By the way, one of the things that Destiny said, he even said this after the debate, is that I constantly get proven on and move to something else, and that I'm constantly misinterpreting evidence. He never uses any sources, right? He just says things. He'll be like, source please, and then I show the source, and it says what I said. So he said, Kamala Harris said that, was hesitant to the vaccine, but not Biden. So then I read the Biden quotes. Who said that? I was like, Biden. Oh, okay. Well, and then he says here, wait a minute, FDA people resigned because they thought there was pressure from the Biden administration? No. I want to see that source. And then watch, I'll provide the source.
The types of medications that the FDA was approving, specifically over an Alzheimer's drug. To be clear, hold on, real quick. It's unfair that I'm like asking you for the specific thing. I'm not trying to like source you in the middle of the debate, but I do know that there were some FDA resignations that happened because it had to do with an Alzheimer's drug, I believe, that was approved. And the problem that they had was that the Alzheimer's drug didn't show that it was treating Alzheimer's, just that it was treating an underlying condition. I think the accumulation of an amyloid plaque, but that didn't necessarily mean that it was treating the Alzheimer's disease. That was my understanding of it. But there might have been some other resignations. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is from Business Insider. It says, in a letter announcing the resignations obtained by the biotech industry publication Endpoints, Dr. Peter Marks, the director of the FDA Center for Biological Evaluation Research, praised the pair for their work during the COVID pandemic. He didn't give a reason for their departure, but sources told Endpoints and Politico that Gruber and Krauss were upset with Biden administration's booster shot plan. The administration announced last month that most people would be offered a COVID-19 booster shot about 8 months after the vaccination. One former senior FDA leader told Endpoints that Gruber and Krauss were leaving because they felt the Center for Disease Control and Prevention was making vaccine decisions that should have been left to the FDA and were upset with Marks, the leader of their division, for not insisting on the agency's oversight.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
So moving on from there, because I do want...
Okay.
So you can see how that goes. Watch the debate for yourself. It's one of those debates that I believe I got removed. YouTube removed my debate of that, but Destiny's debate's allowed to stay up. Right, of course, he continued, and you notice how he does everything that they accuse me of. He talks first, he gish gallops. I sit there politely and let him go. By the way, I have to give Destiny props for that. That was a debate we did on Politically Provoked. We didn't even need a moderator because both of us are capable to sit there and let the other one talk. If the conversation is going in small chunks, we're talking about one issue at a time, I can do that. But if he talks for a big 4-minute chunk and says a bunch of things, that's how I'm going to respond, right? And so that's what was going on there. And you could see the initial point that we were talking about, right, which was, okay, if you think that the best thing to fight COVID was the vaccine, right? What did Biden do that was different than Trump? He just continued Trump's vaccine plan. And if the argument is, well, he signaled to people. Well, no. In fact, one of the things Trump supporters hate is that he signaled to people to take the vaccine. Right? He never cast shade on the vaccine, to the chagrin of many Trump supporters. But Biden did. Kamala Harris did. It wasn't until they won that they were like, oh, okay, vaccines are cool now. Thanks, Crazy Tactics. I appreciate it. But they did, And so the accusation is, well, Rob gish gallops like he doesn't. Right? Rob pivots when he's proved wrong. That's exactly what you see him doing. Rob, he misinterprets sources. And when we ask for sources, it doesn't say, provide the sources every time. It says what I'm not going to say every time. But over 90% of the time, if I say I read that, I'll be honest, if I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I thought I read this. But if I say something like, didn't FDA people resign because they said they were upset about being pressured? No. I look it up. There it is. I'll play this clip. Aftershock said, watch the first 5 minutes of this. Hopefully it's...
This is why I'll never call myself...
Alright. Just for grins. Why not? I'll speed it up, though. I hope you guys can keep up.
Self a centrist, or I don't even know if I'll call myself a moderate. I don't think I do. I usually still call myself progressive. I'll never do it because it feels like every time I dig into people that say that they're like trying to be they want to be centrist or moderate, they try way too hard to both sides things.
We're giving this
I don't
5 minutes.
know how to engage with people like you. I don't know if you are like legitimately mentally challenged, if you actually have 75 IQ, if you need mom and dad to help you like get ready, or if you've got like a state provided caretaker to help you get ready in the morning. I don't know if you're able to clean yourself properly after you go to the bathroom, or if there's like a special facility that people like you go to where somebody has to okay you leaving the room so you don't smell like shit every time you take a dump because you're too stupid to wipe your own ass. I don't know what to say to you. I'm not even gonna give the difference in explanation because if you don't understand at this point, you literally never will. It's probably beyond your comprehension. You like can't conceptualize hypotheticals. Like when things disappear behind doors, you think they've disappeared forever. Like when mom and dad still play peekaboo with you, you think that they're actually like going into another plane of existence. Like I don't know what to say.
And this is just more that you see this happen from the left all the time. Empty platitudes and insults. What you're saying, so dumb. It's just so dumb. You don't even understand when you're playing hide and seek that the person didn't disappear. Yeah, okay, good arguments here.
Like, I don't even know. I'm not even going to give the difference in explanation. If you're honest to God, that's stupid. The difference between like, do you think that a foreign power might have tried to like create shell companies in the United States, like the Internet Research Agency, in order to try to like turn elections or whatever? Is that being the same as there were literal, actual fraudulent votes on machines that were made by the ghost of Hugo Chavez? If you think these two things are the same, you are a lost cause.
It's ironic, right? This is an argument that you hear the left make a lot. So Hillary's team conceded the election where Trump's team didn't. Well, yes, but no. Hillary's team didn't really concede. They understood that it was over and they weren't going to be able to overturn it. You might say that that's the difference between them and Trump. Trump's naive. He doesn't understand that even if the facts were on his side, the system was so geared against him, he wasn't going to be able to get that election overturned. Trump supporters didn't get this either. I was arguing with Trump supporters up until January 20th that no, the Supreme Court is not going to reverse the election and put Trump in office. It's not happening, right? They don't understand that. Trump didn't understand that. Hillary's team got it. So she said she conceded, but she didn't. Instead, she continued to plan to make sure that Trump would be buried during his administration and would be unable to win again. And she did that by accusing Trump of exactly what she was doing, colluding with suspected Russian spies in order to have the FBI work with her, to have constant investigations against Trump that was constantly leaking to the press, that was constantly leaking to her allies, that was then able to smear Trump and stop his administration from like actually doing anything like investigating the crimes of Democrats or getting most of his agenda pushed. So she said the words, "I concede," and then engaged in conspiring with a suspected Russian spy and the FBI to take down Trump. That's what she did. But they're like, oh, well, that's conceding. She said the word concede. Now, what do you think had more of an impact? That, the Russia collusion, FBI spying on Trump for his administration, which resulted in 4 years of investigations into Trump almost the entire time that he was president? Do you think that had an effect on his administration? I do. I think that had a significant effect. What was the effect of what Trump did, refusing to concede? Did it harm Joe Biden anyway? No. Joe Biden was still president. In fact, January 6th, if you do blame Trump for that, all that did was bolster Biden's agenda and power. It allowed him to be even more authoritarian and do whatever he wanted. But they say because Trump, if Trump would have said the words, "I concede" publicly, and then did everything he did, they'd say, okay, that's okay. That's what they believe, right? So, and the other thing is, they say this, oh, well, they were saying that election machines and blah, blah, blah. Remember, there were stories that was being promoted in the media by Democrats saying that Russia hacked voting machines. So much so that a YouGov poll in 2018 said that I think it was, 60% of Democrats thought it was likely or very likely that Russia literally changed tallies on voting machines to steal the election for Donald Trump. I'm going to watch more, but I'm just pausing it, right? So it's ironic, right? That's different, though. That was different when Democrats believed that. That was different. That's okay when they do it. You see?
hope is that you're so lost stumbling around your house every day that you never manage to find your way to a ballot box and contribute a vote to the destruction of this country. That's my only hope for you. What a moron.
I can't tell you how many people have asked me if I've seen it.
Adam and Stitch's community sorted out so hard yesterday.
Fuck it. Drink a Red Bull there, Justin. Jeez.
Thank you, Destiny, for that unhinged tribal rant. My instinct is that you were an MSM simp through and through, but it's nice to know you're a disingenuous piece of shit. Thank you for having this convo. It's a point to remember that progressives like Destiny don't actually mean what they say. They just lie to get support. Oof, mad. What's this guy? I seriously doubt the I'm so empathetic and sensitive to Destiny now, and I shudder that I began to believe it. After this debate, I can only train with extreme suspicion. The mask-off comment spoke volumes. Team Truth has a talent of getting out the truth in people. I can only treat him with suspicion now, as it's beginning to appear that he doesn't mean what he says. Team Truth? Is that the...
No, I'm not about
this
to
is one of
debate.
the
No one
biggest
wants to
shit shows
debate me.
I've seen in a while on this channel. It devolved into a 4v2 interrogation. That's complete bullshit. On a positive side, though, Destiny going mask off was a bit of relief. I knew he hadn't changed, as now there's no question. He's still the arrogant leftist who would rather see the right removed from society. I don't think I ever said that. It just feels gross when you LARP or pretend like you understand the other side and want common ground, but in reality you're a sad, hateful individual. Can't trust Destiny anymore. Just because
Okay,
you understand
Aftershock,
doesn't
I
mean you
hope this
agree with
picks
them.
up because this is shit.
I was so disappointed in Destiny. I didn't think it was still so left. I like that like conservatives are like, understand me, when they really just mean agree with me. Ugh. Actual delusion. I respected Destiny for what I thought was honest discourse towards the right, but I'll take everything he says with a grain of salt. Okay.
I mean, I can't listen for 40 minutes.
How easily triggered these guys are. I thought we were supposed to be the snowflakes.
In 5 minutes, we're 4 minutes.
I never knew Destiny had such a low opinion of conservatives. This might be my bad, I guess. Maybe I need to make this more clear. If you support Donald Trump, you are functionally retarded. Like, I feel like I've said that enough times. There's probably some intelligent conservatives out there. There are no intelligent Trump supporters. Unless you happen to support him by way of, like, I guess you just... If somebody was like, listen, I'm a greedy I just want the lowest taxes possible. Okay. You want to gamble with the future of the country for low taxes? Okay, maybe.
Yeah, the economy was doing real poor under Trump before COVID. Oh, wait, no, it was doing great. But foreign policy was a mess. They were on the verge of World War III. Oh, no, wait, we had historic peace deals in the Middle East. There were no new wars entered for the first time in the presidency in, what, like, the past 5 before that? But yeah, you're a lunatic if you don't vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden.
But, like, basically anything past that is functionally you're retarded. I'm sorry. You just are. They're literally in an echo chamber. The only thing they think... I feel like something that's very frustrating, and I noticed this with Adam and Stitch yesterday, is people... This is why I'll never call myself a centrist, or I don't even know if I'll call myself a moderate. I don't think I do. I usually still call myself progressive. I'll never do it. Because it feels like every time I dig into people that say that they're like trying to be, they want to be centrist or moderate, they try way too hard to both sides things. Yeah, I don't know. And then when you dig in a little bit more, it's like, it feels like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like we should have stronger positions on some things, but... Would you call Bill Maher a conservative? No, he's like an old school.
All right, I'll give it 30
edgy
more
liberal,
seconds
you know?
Aftershock. Can't do
Stitch
this.
agreeing that all the Trump charges are justified, and 5 minutes later he wouldn't know if he would vote for Trump or Biden. Well, if I'm being
Was the drama with Melina around the time?
No, that was about fucking your mom. If I was being ultra charitable, it's that he wouldn't know if he would abstain from voting or voting for Biden, maybe. If I'm being ultra charitable, maybe. Destiny, Adam and Stitch fans aren't looking for agreement. They're looking for authentic empathy. Being smug and calling conservatives retarded is not empathetic. No, you're not looking for empathy. But I mean, I understand it. I mean, nobody really... People want to be understood and people want to be agreed with. That's what people are looking for. I'm empathetic towards conservatives. I understand why they believe what they believe. But you're looking for somebody that's being a little bit more swayed than that. You want somebody to tell you that your beliefs are okay. I understand why people believe the things they do, and I'm empathetic towards it. Doesn't mean that it's not retarded as fuck. Doesn't mean it's not fucking stupid. I can understand why people wouldn't believe in it, but like, what am I supposed to say at the end of the day, right? Like if in 20 years, if we start having like actual migrations due to like climate shit, the annoying thing too is that here's my issue, okay? And you know what? This is the Nebraska conservative side of me coming out. People need accountability. You need accountability for your actions, okay? And somehow conservatives are just allowed to slide on through after saying some retarded shit for a long time. And I don't like the lack of accountability there. Like, you were all wrong.
Right. So I was right on COVID. Destiny was wrong. He supported things like lockdowns, things like that. Said that, you know, the lab leak theory was bullshit. Was right about the Russia collusion stuff. Was right about the Hunter Biden laptop stuff. What was conservative? What was I wrong about specifically? That was all shit that the left was wrong about over and over, including Destiny. So what's he going to say that I was wrong about, or that conservatives were wrong about?
All of you were wrong about the vax shit. Do you understand that now? Do you acknowledge that now? None of the mass deaths happened. None of the huge...
Well, listen, I'm not someone who's saying that the vax caused every death, but I'm saying that there are significant questions about the efficacy of the vaccine, particularly with people that were forced to take it that were young and healthy. Now, did it cause every death of every time we see an athlete fall or something? I don't say that. I don't speak to that whatsoever. But we're learning more about it every day, right? Coincidentally, people that supported the vax mandate were wrong about the millions of bodies that would pile up against COVID. In fact, we're seeing every day that they're admitting that they overcounted those amounts and things like that. So they were actually wrong about the vax. But you can't point to me saying, I said that you should make your own decision up about the vaccine. The only thing I was against was the mandate. People, I think Destiny was for the mandate. I know most of the left was for the mandate. They were the ones that were wrong on this.
Overreach of permanent government power happened. None of the permanent passport...
Yes, there was an overreach of government power that happened that's staying permanently, such as the censorship and things like that have occurred with social media. And they'll be able to, when they want at this point, issue things like lockdowns. And those sort of authoritarian impulses then led to more authoritarian impulses where they did massive supplies of money printing, which led to one of the largest transfers of wealth, the lockdowns plus the money printing from the poor and working class to the upper class. So again, like his argument seems to be, well, because you were eventually left out of your house, you were wrong. It's stupid.
Vaccine passports happened. None of the forced mass vaccines.
Vaccine passports did happen in certain areas, like in New York. My state of Pennsylvania, many people I know lost their homes, lost their loved ones, such as older people that died alone in nursing homes. Many of them died of COVID because our governor, Tom Wolf, told us that we had to lock down young and healthy people or else grandma would die. Then he forced nursing homes to accept COVID patients. One of the earliest interactions I had with Destiny on this was talking about Cuomo doing this in New York, where they intentionally covered up the numbers, right? Destiny mocked me and said, what do you think, that he hid the bodies in the ocean? Then when it was definitively proved that that's exactly what happened, that the Cuomo administration did that, he made excuses for, well, maybe it was necessary for Cuomo to do that.
Happened. None of the crazy side effects, crazy heart disease, crazy deaths.
It's not true. There's many side effects. I went through the data using the CDC's latest paper in 2021, the paper that came out. I haven't looked at the CDC paper since, but I used only sources and medical journals that were advocating for the vaccine, and it showed that young, healthy people, particularly people that had a previous case of COVID, that actually taking the vaccine for them, on average, was causing more harm because there was a 50% rate of side effects. Most of those side effects were mild, but most of the cases of COVID they were getting were mild anyways. So there was significant harm from the vaccines, and for some people, and we're learning more every day. By the way, that's not a controversial thing to say. Almost any medication will have a potential for side effects. It's always a cost-benefit analysis. Like, take the easiest example, like chemotherapy. That's radiation. You wouldn't take chemo if it wasn't absolutely necessary because it causes significant harms to you, significant side effects. It's just if you're someone with horrible, aggressive cancer, the side effects that you get from chemo make sense because the alternative's worse, right? But the question was, we were forcing people that weren't really at risk of COVID to take these vaccines. And people like Destiny and others were saying, there are no side effects, nothing bad will happen from this. That's not true. There were significant side effects, and we are seeing more and more that there are people that were taking that, and the amount of side effects were actually higher than what we were being misled to believe that there wouldn't be any. We were also being misled to believe that you weren't able to spread the disease, or it was almost impossible for you to spread the disease if you got the vaccine. That was also untrue as well. And someone was right. This is why Destiny won't debate me on these sorts of things, because he's never debated me on this stuff because he knows what would happen. He absolutely does know.
Mass mandatory new mRNA vaccine. None of that happened. None of it happened.
Yes, it did. And so this is something that they want to say. They say, we didn't force anything into you. And I was saying this at the time. They would make your life hell, and they would force you to make these decisions. And then afterwards they'd say, we didn't force you. We just said that you wouldn't be able to work if you didn't take it. That's not forcing. You could have chose to be impoverished. You could have chose to lose your livelihood. You could have. But you took it. That's on you.
Happen. You were all completely 100% wrong on it. But like, you just kind of like slid on through that.
It's exactly what Destiny did. And again, just like he would accuse me of gish galloping, or he'd accuse me of my sources being wrong, or he would accuse me of being wrong on something and then pivoting to something else, he's accusing others of exactly what he did.
Despite being wrong and probably causing a healthy amount of your own fucking voters to die. Like, what is gained by trying to hold accountable for shit opinions? It seems worthless. Probably more productive to say they were wrong to move on. There has to be an accountability because people need to see a record of what you've been right or wrong on.
Agreed. I'd be happy to stand up. I'd be happy to go through the debate I had with Destiny on Joe Biden and see who's been right or wrong. I'd be happy to look at our record on things like COVID, on things like Russia collusion, on things like the Hunter Biden laptop, on things like censorship of social media platforms and things like that. I'll put my record up against anyone, in particular Destiny, on those things. But he is right about this point. It is important to hold these people to account.
I wish that people cared about that. I think that's important. I think it's important for you to see historically who's been correct and who's been wrong, so you can start to project like who's going to make good
Crazy Tactics, I would set that up, but Destiny, I've reached out to him many times. Moderators have reached out to him many times. He will not do a one-on-one debate with me. The only 2 times Destiny will interact with me is if it's on a panel where it's like 5-on-1, so he could sit behind 4 other people and then just throw little jabs in. Or he will interact with me if he is the moderator, like on the Kick or Keep, or like when I debated Pisco and he was the moderator, and then he could type to the person that's debating me. That way he doesn't look foolish when I prove him to be stupid.
Predictions in the future, right? And conservatives have been wrong, especially the anti-establishment folk have been wrong on almost everything. So why would you believe anything they have to say in the future? This is why I like to bet money on claims. If you think the vaccine things are going to start to mass kill people, let's bet money on it. Put your money where your mouth. If you're going to come in and say, I'm so confident, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're so confident. Wow.
And again, you'll notice that I didn't say that I'm not fully on board with what some people say, right? I think that the vaccine was rushed. I think that the people that developed the vaccine wanted that vaccine to be mandatory. They wanted people to be forced to take it. I think that they wanted people to be forced to take boosters every year, every 3 months if it was up to them. I think that they didn't want safe, cheap, effective medication to treat that would avoid people taking those vaccines. I think all of that's true. I don't know that the vaccine was intending to purposely kill people. I don't think the vaccine was a net negative for everyone. If you're someone who's 75 with COPD, the vaccine probably did help alleviate symptoms of COVID. That's a different question than, should we be forcing Kyrie Irving, probably one of the healthiest, physically impressive people in the world, a young professional basketball player, should we force him to take this vaccine or else he's not allowed to have a career? That's stupid. Should we not allow Novak Djokovic to compete because he's not vaccinated? That's stupid. Should we force people that had a previous case of COVID to take this vaccine? That's stupid. Should we force children that are at almost all risk, at no risk? That's stupid. In fact, seeing as how there was very little evidence that was ever showed that it was going to prevent the transmissibility, then it should be up to people. It's my choice to be a fat fuck. It's not a good choice. I should lose weight. I'm trying to lose weight, but it's my choice. The government shouldn't force me to lose weight or else I'm not allowed to go to work. But that's what people like Destiny are advocating for with their vaccine mandate. They said that it was a pandemic of the unvaccinated and that you had very little chance to spread it if you were vaccinated. That was untrue. Natural immunity, the evidence always suggested as soon as the evidence started to come in that natural immunity was superior to vaccinated immunity, and yet they treated those people like dog shit. I wish he would have offered to bet me money on this, but he was a coward that didn't want to debate me on this subject because I would have happily debated him, or I would have happily bet money on certain things like knowing the lockdown would predictably cause economic devastation and things like that.
Oh, you're going to give me odds on that, motherfucker? You want to give me odds? How about we bet that there's at least 10,000 confirmed vax-related deaths out of 330 million people in the U.S.? That's not even that much, right? Let's bet.
Well, how would you confirm it, right? There was an incentive to blame things as COVID deaths that weren't really COVID deaths. We saw that early and often. In fact, I talked to a coroner from Williamsport from Center County, Pennsylvania, that talked about that early in the pandemic, how the governor here in Pennsylvania and Health Secretary Levine, who's now Admiral Levine, but when they were at the state level, right, they were calling things COVID deaths in the county of Center County, which ended up being untrue, and that coroner had to force them to retract that. There were all sorts of stories. There was financial incentives for hospitals to say that they were COVID deaths, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So how would you prove that there's vaccinated deaths when there's also an incentive? I mean, they were literally kicking doctors off of social media for talking about potential risks of the vaccine. They were literally talking about taking people's license to practice medicine away. They were talking about these things. The government was literally pressuring social media companies to censor some of these doctors that were talking about these things. Videos of doctors in Florida that had a hearing that talked about potential problems with the vaccine was removed from YouTube. So even if they came and say, well, in our practices, we've seen a total of 10,000 people that have died of the vaccine, Destiny's going to say, I don't trust them, prove it. That's what he would say. But he fully accepted all the COVID deaths. Now, I would admit, just because those doctors say they're vaccine deaths, it's hard to prove that, right? So I wouldn't take that bet, and I never made that sort of claim. But I did make claims that the lockdown would be a disaster, and I was absolutely right about that.
Well, it's been $1,000. I'll give you 10 to 1 on your money. You should give me odds. You think you're so fucking confident? You give me odds, right? At least that UFO guy. I have more respect. I'm never going to collect on that bet with that UFO guy. You know what? I don't even give a f. I don't care if he ever pays me, because I have so much respect for the fact that he was at least willing to put his money where his mouth was. And that was on aliens. So A+ to that dude, okay? You know, if you find a record of me saying this, I won't even pay him out. I mean, I won't make him pay me out when there are no aliens in a year. You know, that's fine. Because at least he was willing to put his money where his mouth is. Jesus.
Is there any more aftershock? Let me know.
What do you think your right to wrong ratio is? My right to wrong, I think I'm generally pretty correct. I think I couch my opinions pretty carefully most of the time. Or usually if somebody say like, what do you think is going to happen here? I'll say, if this happens, if this happens. I think I'm generally pretty on the money. But I mean, hey, if you think I make bad predictions, then call me out on it. If you think I make good predictions, call me out on it.
Well, it has nothing to do, you can't even properly diagnose the reality of today. Like, you made bad predictions about the lockdowns and about vaccines and things like that, and you think they were right today. So how would I ever be, given that you can't acknowledge the reality? But yeah, thanks, Aftershock. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely worth it to get to there. I mean, what have I been wrong? I'll admit the things that I've been wrong about. Here's some serious things that I've been wrong about. I thought that Trump had no chance to win in 2016. Was wrong. I thought that Joe Biden would not be the nominee in 2020. I was wrong. I thought Republicans would do much better in 2022 in the midterms. I was wrong about that. Yes, is it fair to say Destiny refuses to debate me? I've reached out to Destiny literally dozens of times on his Discord and asked if he wanted to have one-on-one conversations. I had almost no response. He just doesn't respond to me. Moderators have reached out to Destiny on specific topics, which I've gotten no response of. The last time that I was able to debate Destiny in a planned one-on-one debate, I don't even know. Like, again, my video of this had to be pulled down, so I have to search Destiny's video of it. It was on Politically Provoked, and it was November 27th, 2021. He literally says in that debate that he would have, at the end of it, that he would have a one-on-one debate with me on Burisma. That was back in 2021. That debate never surfaced. He only was willing to do it because it was politically provoked. He had a sort of a relationship that they were moderating some of the debates he did. The times he's interacted with me since then have been one where he happens to be on a panel that's loaded against me, so it's like a 4-on-1 or a 5-on-1 against me. Or second, him moderating and then messaging the people I'm debating and telling them what to say, or him interjecting as a moderator. That's it. It's not just me that's reached out to him. It has been different moderators that have reached out to him. It's been people that have messaged him on his channel. The same is true of Vosh. Vosh doesn't want to debate me one-on-one. He doesn't want to. Vosh he was on The Crucible for an interview show. People got to call in with questions and have super chats for questions. He was asked to debate me. He said maybe that's something I would do. Then he was on again on the Crucible, and they said, Rob Noerr, he was like, who's that? I don't remember. Then I called him to the show and asked if he wanted to do a debate, and he's like, yeah, maybe we'll do that. The moderators from the Crucible reached out to him several times, not interested in debating me. I'll go further than that. I had offers from moderators that asked me a couple months ago, would you be willing to debate I'm Really Important on Biden's record? I said, absolutely, set it up anytime. I'll do that debate. Absolutely, but do it. He said, okay, because IRI reached out to me and asked if I could find someone to debate him on that. I was like, he won't accept. He won't do it. IRI won't debate me. So he reached out, and when the response was, sure, Rob Noerr will debate you, I was like, that debate won't happen, I assure you. And it didn't happen. And his supporters make excuses. They say, well, that's just because you gish gallop. You gish gallop, and you're a conspiracy theorist. Sitch, I told you last night, Sitch doesn't want to debate me on the Burisma stuff. He doesn't. He says, no, it would just be a rehash. Even though we have all this new information that came out. Talking to Glenn Greenwald about Ukraine stuff, right? Glenn's a bigger streamer. Doesn't want to debate me. They don't want to debate me one-on-one. They don't. That's the truth. They try. They'll try when it's like Counterpoints is putting on a panel and it's going to be 5-on-1. It's going to be Beckett and Dylan Burns and Destiny and some other guy that's like sort of in the middle and Rob. That they'll do. Because then they know that they could just rapid fire change and hyper focus on one specific things. Yeah, Glenn Greenwald, the journalist, yeah. Crazy Tactics, you can go back and you can watch that debate. I'll put the link. You can watch the debate with me and decide for yourself. You know, Destiny supporters, obviously. No, I can't blame this. It's the same of anyone. If I did a debate, and my audience was like, Rob killed it, and then the debate ended, and I said, actually, I think I lost that debate, my audience would still say, no, Rob killed it. So, of course, Destiny's audience is going to say that. But if you go in it with an open mind, I don't even think it was close, the debate I had with Destiny on Biden's record. I don't think it was close. I really don't. And it's a shame. I don't think the conversation I had with Destiny after the panel we were on about Burisma, it wasn't even close. He just doesn't know the facts. He literally was forced into a position where he was saying, well, maybe the lobbyists for Burisma, when they met with State Department officials, maybe they were discussing how to spell the name Burisma. That's literally what he's forced to do. Yeah, IRI, he'll do that panel. First, he probably didn't know I was going to be on the panel. But in the panel, you could hide. You could just throw a little jab and meme your way through it. That's the way Vosh is. On the panel, you could do that. What's up, Rachel? My friend Rachel Wilson. We were just talking about the Crucible. Check out the Crucible and check out Rachel's channel. Awesome content. She'll tell you. And her husband, BPF, Andrew Wilson, he'll tell you. He went through the same thing. When you are a successful conservative debater, they don't want to talk to you one-on-one. That's not good for them. Their brand is basically going after people that they could either just be like, you're a horrible, bigoted racist, ha ha ha. So that's why they they'll debate Nick Fuentes, because one, he's got a bigger audience, so they like that. And second, because even if they lose an argument to Fuentes, they could look at their audience and go, well, he's a racist. Right? He's a Nazi. So they can't do that to me. They have nothing to gain from debating me, so they don't want to debate me. That's what happens. Andrew went through the same thing. The difference is Andrew built probably the most successful debate platform, so now they have to come to him. But I didn't do that. So they don't want to debate Rob Noerr on this stuff. Nope, not interested. We'll ignore him. We're going to talk to him about him with the pandemic, right? Because they're prepared for a debate. You see it all the time, right? Oh, we're going to talk about Trump. We're going to talk about Trump. And it's constantly, the people that are like in the debate sphere, when I do these panels, they'll just assume, like you saw it in the Kick or Keep the other day, right? Like, so we're talking, the first question is there censorship? Ironically, right out of the gate, I'm like, sure, there's things that were censored. The Hunter Biden laptop story, things about the Ukraine war that was censored, things about the election that were censored, things about COVID. What's the first thing they said? Oh, you can't talk about COVID. You can't talk about COVID. We're literally, how meta is that? We're having a conversation about is social media censored, and the left's freaking out because I use the word COVID. They're like, we're streaming to YouTube. You can't say that word. Can't say that. Little meta there for you, right? But I'm talking about, like, oh, we have people from the FBI that were putting pressure on social media to censor certain stories and things like that. And what do they say? What's their response to me? What about when Donald Trump said that Colin Kaepernick should be fired? Yeah, that sucked. And? Well, didn't he? Isn't it true that one time his team reached out and wanted a joke removed? Yeah, I guess that sucks. And? Why no? I'm not saying everyone on the left's a dishonest sleaze. Glenn Greenwald's on the left. Aaron Matei's on the left. Some of my favorite commentators and people are on the left. But the bulk of them are. The bulk of I mean, here's the truth. Here's one prop I'll give to Destiny. Most of the online Twitch sphere is just people doing poor Destiny impressions. The online left debate sphere. That's what it is. It's people that aren't as good as Destiny that are just trying to parrot his mannerisms and his argument style and his arguments. That's what it is. That's it. And Destiny's better at it than them. That's where the prominent voices are on this space. Yeah, there are lefties, like when I debated the peer review. He's not as crazy, right? Pisco's a little different, and I still think that he's a hack. But he debates differently. But 80 to 90% of the people I debate, like that guy last night, I could predict almost to a T exactly what they're going to say on every topic. Almost every topic. I know exactly what they're going to say. And they make that mistake with me. They're like, well, Rob will just defend everything Trump does. No, I won't. In fact, I've probably criticized Trump more successfully than they have. Because my criticisms of Trump are based in reality. My criticism isn't, Trump said drink bleach, because he didn't. My criticism's things like this. People voted for Trump, a lot of Tea Party type people, because they said that they were fiscal conservatives, and yet Trump blew out the budget more than in his 4 years than any president previously. And if you're concerned with fiscal conservatism, you shouldn't say, unless my guy's there. That was a criticism. I said I like the fact that Trump paid lip service to not end these foreign regime change wars, and that if we're going to fight Islamic terrorists, we should be allies with even countries that we don't like, such as when he said in the debates, why are we fighting Russia and Syria? Shouldn't we be allied with them to take out ISIS? That I liked. When Trump bombed Syria, that I didn't like. I heavily criticized him for that. I even criticized Trump for some of the stupid shit he said when he would be attacking people like Rosie O'Donnell and stuff like that. It's beneath you, dude. You're the president. I certainly criticized Trump for appointing the worst people around him over and over again. And I certainly criticized him for basically going out like a loser after 2020 without declassifying the documents that showed the coup that was against him by the FBI. I criticized the shit out of Trump. I'm not sure I'm voting for Trump. If he was in the general, if he wins the nomination, I'll vote for him. But I still may vote for DeSantis. I still may vote for Vivek. I have not made up my mind. There are problems with all of them. But they just assume, the left assumes, oh, you'll say anything to keep Trump out of jail. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if Trump goes to jail. What I care, the damage has already been done. To me, the indictment's irrelevant at this point. The damage has been done because the groups that I've been criticizing, even before Trump, the groups I were criticizing, it wasn't George Bush bad, Barack Obama bad. It was the military-industrial complex is what I used to talk about a lot. Then it was establishment institutions. Jared and Ivanka, that's something I criticize him for as well. Relying on Jared and Ivanka. The banning of bump stocks was something I criticized him for. But they don't know how to, they can only deal with a caricature. So they expect me to be like, well, yeah, Trump should have said, it was okay when Trump said to fire Kaepernick. It wasn't. I mean, it's literally okay to have that opinion, but as the President of the United States, you shouldn't be weighing in on that shit. In private, if that's his opinion, whatever. It's not your place. But they still can't get it. Even Crazy Tech, he can't get it. I've explained my position in simple terms. I don't think I I might be a verbose person, but I don't think my vocabulary's too difficult. I think one of the strong points of me is that I am a regular guy. I talk to people. Many of my best friends didn't graduate high school. We're not sitting around using, $10 words. That's not really what I do. In fact, it's something that sometimes annoys me. When people talk beyond, use vocabulary to talk, beyond their level. I don't really care about Trump classified documents. I think the idea that there was an insurrection is bullshit, and the idea that Trump called for violence or an insurrection is bullshit. I don't really care that Hillary Clinton had a private server. I care that the FBI and almost every institution in this country, including our mainstream media, groups that control huge platforms where our conversations happen, like social media, mainstream media, corporate America, academia, the entertainment industry, all of these institutions went as hard as possible after Trump and as easy as possible after the people that were his opponents. Always. That's always how it goes. Always. That's what I care about. No, I didn't see Kevin's expose on Vivek. The documents case is the most serious case in that I think that there's the best. It is, I don't even want to say serious. It is the case that there are the most reasonable to bring to trial. I think it's unreasonable in that it's a horribly kept secret that almost everyone in Washington improperly handles classified documents, right? I think that the way they went about it, piercing attorney-client privilege and all of that stuff, raiding his home in that way, it's farcical. It's an outrage. It really is. But if he told people to intentionally conceal or destroy evidence, that's a crime. It's not a serious crime that's going to lead to the end of the world or anything, but that's definitely a no-no. That's definitely a crime. That's something we know Hillary's team did. They intentionally deleted subpoenaed evidence. They didn't get charged. You can't, right? And you have to understand, everyone wants to, one thing that separates me from other people too is I don't give these bullshit platitudes that you see a lot of people that would give on the right? So a lot of people say, I'm a free speech absolutist. You're not. You're not a free speech absolutist. That would mean quite literally you think that all speech should be allowed to have and things that derive from speech. So a free speech absolutist would say, well, video's a form of speech, and so any type of video should be allowed on any platform. There are clearly videos that we would say clearly should not be allowed, such as heinous crimes, particularly crimes against children and things like that. Beyond that, I also understand that even though I lean towards being as much free speech as possible, companies want to make money and they have to have advertising. So they don't want people just on here shouting racial slurs and things like that. Now, if it's being enforced in a two-tier system, that's bad. But I don't blame, right? I don't blame YouTube for being like, dude, if you want to put a 5-minute video up where you're just screaming the N-word at someone over and over and over and screaming racial slurs, I understand why they'd be like, that's not for our platform. When Elon Musk talks about free speech absolutism and free speech, what he's talking about, I'm afraid of in pursuit of knowledge. There we go, that's it. You want to call in? I'm feeling generous tonight in pursuit of knowledge. I'm very afraid of you, so why don't you call in? Go ahead. You call in and we'll see how afraid of you I am. Okay? Go ahead. People confuse me not wanting to deal with people that are just wasting my time because I've given them hours. Like a guy last night, it was 4 hours I talked with him. And then because he's just talking about something irrelevant and just going over and over again, and I'm like, okay, I'm moving on. I won't talk to him again because he's afraid. Last chance. I'm talking to you in pursuit of knowledge. You can call in right now. You've called me a coward. You said I'm unwilling to talk to you because I'm afraid. Now's your chance. You're on the computer. You can call in. You know how to use Discord. You've done it before. Call in right now. You're saying that I'm afraid of you? I'm telling you I'm not. Call in. I will debate anyone at least once because I don't care. If you waste my time, if I think you're so repugnant it's not worth the conversation a second time, then sure. You didn't call me a coward. You didn't use the word coward, but you said, I am afraid of you. That's synonymous with calling me a coward. Right. I read what you said. You said, and I quote, he won't talk to me again because he is afraid. That is synonymous with saying that I am a coward. I am afraid to talk to you. Now you're arguing semantics because you know that you don't want to call in because you'll get fucking wrecked. Because you know that your supposition that I'm afraid to talk to you is bullshit, which is what... Oh, you're saying that to Aftershock. Well, that could be true. If that's the case, I apologize. My bad. You have to understand sometimes I make that mistake. I forget people are talking to each other. Well, I'm not a coward, and I'm certainly not afraid to talk to you in pursuit of knowledge. I don't remember who you are. I have a vague memory of maybe who you are. But I also look at it as, I'm not worried if I lose a debate, so I don't care. This isn't my career. I do it for fun. The worst thing that could happen is I talk to someone on an issue that I care about, and they crush me. And then what? Well, one of two things. I admit I was wrong, but now I'm better for it because I know more. Or I say, okay, how do I counter these arguments? What am I missing? And that strengthens my argument. Oh, okay, pursuit of knowledge. I'm sorry. Again, I apologize. So I don't give a shit. What's that? That's the absolute worst that can... I mean, I guess worse than that can happen. You can get swatted or some shit like that, that's way out of bounds. But as far as just the tactical... like what happens in a debate. So I don't give a shit. But there are people that aren't worth my time. Yeah, I hear you, Rachel. Oh, you can say whatever you want. I don't give a shit. But I hear this all the time. Like, people like Omar, who Rachel knows Omar. He's just always hassling the crew. There's nothing left to say to Omar. There's nothing left to say to, oh shit, what was the trans person? Poly people. There's nothing left to say. I'm sorry. Like, poly people might be a nice person. Maybe. I don't know. I won't speak any more on that. But I'll say this. Absolute shit debater. Just not remotely in my league. There's not... It's like, you need certain things to be able to have a discussion or a debate. Like, you have to understand each other. You have to kind of be speaking language that you each understand. So if I'm on here speaking French, and you don't speak French, and you're speaking Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, you can't really have a debate, right? You have to have an agreement on topics and things like that. Like, someone like Polly People, I literally can't talk to her because I could be like, well, here's a study that says this. And she just looks at, and it just bounces off. She's like, but it's you're wrong. Like, you're reading studies. That's not fair. It's like, and literally Andrew had to step in that debate and be like, yeah, I'm just going to end this because it's not worth anyone's time at that point. God bless her. Go talk to whoever she wants. I'm not wishing ill or anything like that, but it's not worth for me to have another debate. And that shit happened. That's the people you say that like, Rob won't debate me. Well, what happened was you called in, you wasted my time over and over and over again. I probably gave you hours, and it was completely worthless. And so I said, I'm done with this. And then you could raise your hand and go, victory, Rob won't talk to me. If that helps you and that makes you feel good, have at her. There's other people that you don't want to debate because it necessarily brings bullshit to you, right? So there are certain people in the trans Twitch sphere that every time I debate, I get my passwords hacked. There are certain people in the alt-right. I was talking the other day to someone, I think it was Quibbles, I was talking to the other day. That's funny. I took him off my chat so I can't see him any because he was shit yesterday, but I was talking to Quibbles the other day, right? And I think that's who it was. I could be wrong. And we were talking about certain alt-right groups. And as I was talking about them, my phone rings at 2 in the morning. I was like, hey, 1 second, I got to check this call. Spam risk. Okay. Then it rings again right after that. The number is my mom. I was like, oh shit, 2 in the morning, my mom's calling. I got to take this call. I answer it, and it's just someone shouting the N-word over and over again. That's what happened. I wasn't even debating someone from that sphere. It just came up for 2 minutes in a speech or in a discussion with someone, and all of a sudden my phone got hacked like that. Why do you want to debate those people? Well, yeah, I use my real name. I don't even know the technical process of how they could do that, but it's happened before. I've told this story that I was on here streaming. I've had them call my phone like that many times. One time I was on here streaming, and my password, which has a bunch of special characters and things like that, someone followed me on Twitch, and their username was my password. And they just said, "Gotcha." That was when I was debating radical lefties. Yeah, that happened, Rachel. I still didn't get it as bad as you and Andrew get it, but that's the type of shit that happens. I'll talk to you about interventionist foreign policy. I don't know if tonight's the right night to do it. I don't know if I have 90 minutes, but I would talk to you. Someone asked if I talk economics. Yeah, I talked to the Econoboy 6 hours one time and then did 2 debates with him. Yeah, that's fine. Debate enjoyer. I would talk to you about that. But anyways, getting sort of off topic here, which we were talking about tonight. Was it me that had my patients calling? My parents called, not my patients. I don't know if you... But yeah, I mean, shit like that happens. I've had my work called. I've been called in because people accused me of heinous things. No, it wasn't them. It was just someone yelling the N-word. Could I moderate a debate? Sure, I moderate. I used to do the arena where I moderated panels, and I moderated debates occasionally. Yeah. I don't find much enjoyment in moderating debates, to be honest. If I get arrested for my content, my mugshot would be epic. I'll have to come up with a face. We used to, in high school, me and my friend Gerald, anytime we were getting a picture taken that we knew was going to be in the yearbook, our move was the peace sign and grimace. Why don't we go do it this year? That was it. Peace and grimace. That was our... So maybe I'll go with that. So, back to this indictment of Trump. Now, listen. I'm not surprised the indictment of Trump happened. In some ways, Trump deserves it. I know that Trump supporters don't want to hear this. Does he morally deserve it? Well, it's a difficult question, right? But strategically, he might. Because he was the rare person that was in a position where he could have done something about the corruption, and he didn't. Instead, he appointed Bill Barr and John Bolton. And it was a big mistake on his part. A big mistake. Big mistake. I knew it was a mistake. I called it out. The QAnon people told me, "You're ridiculous. Trust the plan." I knew exactly what would happen. I told everyone. I saw the writing. Now, I'm never 100% certain when it comes to political prediction. I won't say that. But I saw the writing on the wall, and I think everyone could tell from my tone. When Trump started to endorse lockdowns, I was like, well, this is it. I saw what was happening in Pennsylvania. I saw that Republicans in the state legislature was going along with Democrats, massively and quickly changing the way we voted. And I knew it. I was like, Pennsylvania's gone, and that pretty much means that's it. I knew that there would be economic devastation, and people would be furious, and it would harm them in significant ways if we had lockdowns and things like that. Trump was endorsing that shit early on. I knew that that would harm him. I was on here saying, like, if you believe that Democrats would intentionally allow riots to keep occurring to make Trump look bad, you don't think that they would intentionally want policies that would sabotage the economy going into the election to make him look bad? Because that's what's happening. That's what's happening right now. Maybe my tech. I guess we won't know. What good is he then? Why vote for him? If it's, well, his hands will be tied because if he does anything successful, then they'll just literally physically take him out. Okay. That could be true, but then don't run. So the indictment of Trump, fourth indictment, what's he looking at? Something like 600 years now? Nearly 80-year-old man is looking at 600 years or something in prison now, 90-plus indictments, or charges. It's the 19 other people. That's what's... They're literally... I mean, again, I don't know what to say. And it's in some ways, it's a more stark, because the charges have been filed. And they've done it with this RICO stuff. Yeah, I know, Pursuit. I got it now. So they're doing this RICO stuff, right? But it was when they raided Project Veritas, it was the same type of feeling. When they charged Steve Bannon with contempt of court, when literally the January 6th committee was subpoenaing the personal devices of pundits. Of pundits! Imagine if Donald Trump's FBI was like, we want Rachel Maddow's cell phone. Jake Tapper's phone, Jim Acosta's phone. Let's see their emails. Imagine if that was going on. But that's what was happening, and no one really spoke up. It was just like, well, God bless Steve Bannon for saying, kiss my ass. No, not cooperating. When they started arresting people for memes. That shit's closer to me. That shit shows that they're moving on to the next phase. It's not just take Trump out. It is, and of course, the best example is the January 6th people. Speedy trials, some of them are looking at 2-3 years without having a trial yet. Non-violent people. Many people weren't even accused of violence. Getting the book thrown at them. 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Meanwhile, the people that we saw burning down police stations, firebombing police cars, attacking police all summer, they're getting settlements. They're getting paid out. Trump will be convicted. He'll be found guilty. My guess is, so if I had to guess, the Stormy Daniels case will go nowhere. I don't even think it'll make it to trial. I think that Bragg got his moment in the sun and he'll say, well, these other cases, I'll step back. That's my guess on that, right? So that's what will happen with the Stormy case, right? What was the next case? The next was the Mar-a-Lago. I think that they will get a conviction in the Mar-a-Lago case. The next case is the January 6th. I think they'll get a conviction in the January 6th case. And the other case is the Georgia case. I think they'll get a conviction in that case. I think that ultimately it would be overturned by the Supreme Court. I think that that's what Democrats will want. They'll want it to go to the Supreme Court. But there's a 50-50 chance. Well, I won't say that. There's a 30-30-30 chance or something like that. Scenario one is that the Democrats want it to go to the Supreme Court because then if the Supreme Court overturns it, which obviously they should, they'll say, see, look how corrupt the court is. That's why we have to pack the court. And they'll try to send the message to the American people, to like independents and stuff. They'll try to change the narrative to Trump committed all these crimes and a corrupt Supreme Court. Look at Clarence Thomas. He took business trips and now he's supporting Donald Trump. And that's why we need to oust these people. So that's part one. Part two would be what I said before, that they'll magnanimously be like, well, the election's over. We'll pardon now. Now we'll pardon him for these things. Or we will, if not pardon, maybe they'll do commute the sentence. They'll commute the sentence. No jail time. We'll commute the sentence. Right? It's, I guess scenario 3 is they just want him to go to jail, right? Of course they're doing it to all fall in line with the election. If he wins, he's suspect. You can say that about anyone. I mean, it's true. Like, part of me thinks that the system's so corrupt, if someone like Ron DeSantis wins, it's because the people in power know they could control him. You can say the same about Trump. The process is the punishment, though. It doesn't matter if they get a conviction. It doesn't matter. They will, though. I mean, you remember the woman that was the head of the grand jury in Georgia? I was like, oh my God, like, Trump's, like, I get to swear him in and he has to look at me, and I'm like, do you swear to tell the truth? It's fucking insane. The reason that this stuff will work, though, is because how insane the left has become in our country. That's why it'll work. They literally hate that man so much, they'll justify anything. They hate his supporters so much, they would lock you up. They really would. Not all of them, but huge percentage of them. They wanted you to die if you didn't take the vaccine. They did. They literally wanted you to die. They did. They wanted you locked in your home. They fucking wanted it. They weren't worried when Donald Trump came out and said, hydrochloroquine's good. They weren't worried that he was wrong. They were worried that he was right. That's what scared them. Holy shit. This pandemic is so good for us. It's going to stop Trump from winning again. And may God help. Oh, they don't believe in God. Well, may we be helped. If Trump touts a medication that we think's wrong and all of a sudden it saves lives, we'd be fucked. Then people won't die and he won't lose. That's where we are as a country. They don't give a fuck. Then there's an entire next group of people that they might realize how insane that is, but they sort of half believe it, and they certainly aren't going to rock the boat. They're not going to speak up against it because they see what happens to you. Ask Robert Kennedy Jr. Ask Joe Rogan. Ask Russell Brand. All of these traditional left-wing people that it's like, wow, the vitriol, the hate, when they just say a little something. Thanks, chubby buddy. There's someone after my heart. It's not like Trump's any better. Okay, if that's true, right? If it's true that Trump supporters are like that, show me the right-wing DAs and prosecutors that are mass locking up left-wingers. Go ahead, show me. Let's see it. It's not even close. I'll admit, there are people, and I have criticism on the right, like when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, we're like, oh, I'm like, don't do that. Stupid. Yes, if Trump wins, he should be allowed to pardon himself. That's the system we have. Remember there was polling, it was like it was like close to 50% Democrats said they would rather live next to an MS-13 member than a Trump supporter. I know Trump supporters that will argue, like my friends and family, that will argue with Biden supporters. But I don't know any Trump supporters that would literally excommunicate a Biden supporter from their life. I don't know any. But I know many Biden supporters that are like that. I have never once experienced a left-wing friend of mine coming into a right-wing space and them knowing that they were like, I have to intentionally be quiet. Every time I'm somewhere and there's even where I live, where it's predominantly right-wing, if I go to like a Thanksgiving dinner or something like that and politics gets brought up, the people that are like Biden supporters or Trump haters, they feel no shame. They'll speak up. Trump's fucking racist. He's horrible and blah, 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 blah. And then someone like me, I just have to be like, yeah, can you pass the turkey? Yeah, you're right. It's always like that. I'm always the person that has to be magnanimous and go, oh yeah, you kind of have a point. Anyways, I'm not trying to rock the boat here. It's a family function. We're at a wedding. We're at a family dinner. I get you. Our entire culture, it's just assumed. I've told you, like, my campaign manager was a Democrat. Maybe he'll come on and talk to me again, but, you know. I said, have you ever once felt that you saying your political opinions could cost you your job, could cost you relationships and stuff like that? He was like, no, not at all. sort of a centrist Democrat. I was like, do you think my opinions would cost me? He's like, yeah. He knows. And it's not that he thinks, oh, that's because your opinions are, you're racist or he doesn't think that. I mean, he literally was my campaign manager. But he knows. He knows the truth. That's where we're at as society. One side it is culturally for 30 years, if not longer, one side has beat into their head, we are morally virtuous. And the people that don't agree with us are evil. And so we are literally justified to do anything. Go back and listen to me arguing with Vosh supporters like 3 months ago. I play a clip from Vosh. Vosh says, you know those Patriot Prayer dumb fucks in Portland? I want a world where people could shoot at them out their windows. He's literally calling for shooting people that are peacefully and legally open carrying. He's calling for their murder. That's what he said. Now, he could have came out and said, I'm sorry, I was in the moment, that was hyperbolic. Clearly, I don't think people should do that. That's fucking crazy. But that's not what he did. He downplayed it. And then, of course, he's not going to debate me on it, but supporter after supporter of his was like, literally, I debated 3 or 4 people that were like, well, that's just self-defense. That's self-defense to shoot those people. How? How is it self-defense? They're menacing me. I don't like their politics, and I don't like the fact that they're holding guns. So that is aggressive towards me. So I'm allowed to shoot them to defend myself. Now keep in mind, this incident that they're talking about literally had an Antifa person shoot and murder a Patriot Prayer person. They don't give a fuck. A trans mass shooter killed fucking kids at a school. People broke in to Nashville's legislator and said there were 7 victims, that the shooter of children was a victim. That's fucking insane. That is mainstream Democrat shit. Riots occurring over and over and over on the left. Well, they're mostly peaceful. That's the language of the unheard. This isn't a fringe group. Yes, there are fringe people on the right that do heinous, terrible shit. Totally agree. I've debated Richard Spencer. I've debated Groypers. I've debated alt-right people. I tell them when I think they're wrong. Yeah, fascism's a word. That's true. It's one word for it. They don't give a shit. They want to insert their politics in everything. They are cry bullies. They claim to be victims if you give them 1/10 of what they give you. They'll want you fired from your job. They'll want to boycott any company. They don't want anyone to be in the entertainment industry that has politics that disagree with them. But if you fight back and you're like, we're going to have a boycott. I thought you were against cancel culture. Half of the Republicans that are in positions of power fucking hate Trump, and to them, it's one big club, and Trump was someone that threatened that club, so they don't give a fuck. They want him to go down, and everyone supports him to go down. They want to go back to the good old Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush days. That's what they want. So great, take down Trump, take down all of his supporters. Let's get them out of the way, and then we could say, well, we think that Biden is terrible for this country because he didn't send enough money to Ukraine. That's the problem. The pulling out of Afghanistan was a mistake. That's why Biden... So vote for us, traditional neocons. Vote for us. That's what they wanted to get back to. And then the other 50% of them are either cowards or... And 50%, it's not an exact number there. But they're either cowards or they're so hampered by trying to be impartial. Jordan Peterson, a long time ago when he was on Joe Rogan, talked about, Rogan's like, how did we get where we are? And Peterson's like, one step at a time. And I remember having this debate when I was in the debate community because I supported Ron Paul. And everyone in the debate community is super radical far left. So they thought that Ron Paul was like the dumbest person to vote for, libertarian, blah, 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 blah. And I would have I remember talking to people who's like, well, what we need is compromise. And I'm like, well, what's the compromise? Right? One side's like, we think that the government should have control over basically everything you do in your life. And then the Ron Paul side's like, no, we don't think you should have control over all the shit we do in our life. What's the compromise? Well, give them control of 50% of your life. That's the compromise? Oh, okay. And then once you're like, okay, we'll give in on that. Just like Jordan Peterson said. So they're here and you're here, and they're like, we're going to encroach here. And you're like, okay, we'll come to the center. And they're like, now we're going to encroach here. And you're like, okay. And they're like, now we're going to encroach here. And you're like, okay. And they're like, now we're going to encroach here. And you're like, okay. And then they're going to encroach here. And it's like, wow, how'd the line get so far over here? One step at a time. That's how it got there. And these people feel completely, like you don't understand. And it's not a conscious decision that most people are making. It's not that they're thinking like, yeah, we know we're hypocrites. They don't feel that way. Literally, in their heart, they think that you're dog shit. They think if you are of the political persuasion they disagree with, you're literally evil. You're immoral. So it would literally, like, to them, it's literally like, a wolf is eating my child. Yes, I'll use violence to stop it. They don't even have to think about it. They might not use violence as the first step. They might say, well, we'll pen the wolf. We'll get, defenses to brush it aside, to keep it aside. But if it comes down to it, without hesitation, they would kill it. That's how they look at you. That's literally how they look at you. And it's prevalent so far, to so many places. That's how you could literally get in D.C. You could convict Trump on anything. Literally. I wish they'd do it. I wish someone would just indict and be like, yeah, we think, so here's the indictment here in D.C. Trump, let's see, what'd Trump do? Trump sold nuclear secrets to ISIS in Canada, in Ontario, during the Stanley Cup. He went below the ice and sold nuclear secrets. So, life in prison. And they'd be like, well, what evidence do you have? Nah, we just heard about it. Guilty. It doesn't matter if the majority of the left's that extreme. That is the mainstream opinion of the most vocal part of the left and the people that are wielding power. And I hear all this, not everyone on the left. Okay, then what are the more moderate lefties doing? They out there calling out the corruption at the FBI? I don't see that, do I? No, I don't see that at all, do I? What ideal institution could I... There are no current institutions, main institutions that I see that are the ideal version of what I want. The closest thing, our nation at its founding, despite problems with slavery and things like that, with small government, what was outlined in our foundational documents is close to as good as we've seen in this world. And I keep hearing this, like, well, no, the moderate left, that's your broad brush. That's not everyone on the left. I agree. Again, I admitted at the outset, there are the Glenn Gray. How's that working for them? How's it working for the people on the left that were like, let's see, I didn't trust the intel agencies under Bush, and I didn't trust them under Obama, and I didn't trust them under Trump, and now I don't trust them under Biden. How's that working out for those lefties? What's the average Democrat's opinion of, say, Glenn Greenwald or Aaron Mattei? What's their opinion? Or RFK? Yeah, again, I'm not saying average debate enjoyer. There are people that are doing that, but they're not the people with power. Our education system filled with these people. I mean, and it's not just this. Cinema and Mansion, right? There are two moderates. Yeah, they chased her into a bathroom. They're calling for Manchin's head. I mean, the examples are so numerous, it's hard to even wrap your head. I mean, like literally shit I could say, and it's everywhere. It's all through culture, it's all through literally they could be burning down, leftists are rioting, And it's like, well, it's not that bad. Where's the moderate left? Where was the moderate left on that? Where were they? Didn't hear from them. Lockdowns. Where was the moderate left? Didn't really hear from them. Fuck, I didn't even hear from the moderate right. 10 years ago, if I told you, literally we're going to get to the position where the mainstream position will be that biological sex isn't a reality, that biological males should compete with females in sport, you would have laughed at me. You would have, no fucking way. I could prove it, by the way. I could prove this. Ready? What was this, maybe 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Ready? This is Dennis Prager on Real Time with Bill Maher with a bunch of lefties.
These are giant left-wing lies.
We're talking about degrees.
To say that men can menstruate is a lie. And that is what is said.
Yes. Wait, where did that
You never heard it, right? Okay. Check it out, folks. Check it out. Anyone who says a man cannot menstruate is considered transphobic.
I missed this whole story.
You did?
I did.
I agree.
Now tell me where you're getting this.
Just Google it. Can men menstruate?
Who is saying this? You're talking about a very small percentage.
Oh, really? Then how do you allow men, biological men, to run against women in the races in Connecticut and set all the high school records?
Okay, but that's...
they're called men.
No.
The Nation magazine said they're women.
Okay, but I would agree with you on that. The way you framed it is nonsense.
I framed it perfectly accurately.
No, you didn't. What you're talking about is, yes, someone who is transgendered, was a man, now claims to be a woman, is a woman, okay, is beating the dog shit out of other women in the race because, of course, they have more muscle mass. And even Martina Navratilova came out and said, this is ridiculous. You might as well not have women's sport. This is a far cry from saying men can menstruate.
I agree.
But that's not where anyone went with that, but you.
Not true.
Okay.
At the University of Berkeley men's room, tampons are given out. Check it out. UC Berkeley men's rooms have tampon dispensers.
Would you say,
that's
Dennis,
probably because men are pussy whipped and their girlfriend said, "Go get me a tampon." That's why. That's a much more logical. Okay, all right. Moving on to the next. Dennis, I remember you in the old show. You were a little more reasonable.
What did I say that wasn't?
You said that we think that men menstruate and no one does. We never. Have you heard about it?
I'm a doctor.
I missed that one, I confess.
And this is one of the premier reporters. I mean, he knows everything. These people are very. He's a doctor.
Okay.
He's one of the great.
I would make a friendly bet that the LGBTQ normative statement is men can menstruate. These are.
Laughed. All the lefties. I wouldn't believe. That's 3 years ago. Now you could get kicked off of Twitter for saying men can't get pregnant. 3 years it took. 3 years. So when I hear people say, well, not all the left's like, no, you're exaggerating. You're exaggerating. Really? Really? Are we? Every step along the way, I was like, oh, they're using the FBI to spy on political opponents. They're using opposition research that wasn't verified. No. And now we're like, well, okay, that happened. But what you're saying now is ridiculous. Over and over and over. I'm actually shocked at how rapidly it's getting fucking crazier and crazier. It's exponential. And it's not just me. Lefties have said this. Jonathan Haidt at Heterodox Academy. He talks about this, right? I've talked about him a lot. I haven't read a lot of him recently, right? But I was reading reports of him where he was saying things like this. With the advent of social media, he saw it sort of exponential increase of universities and how left-leaning the administrators and the professors were becoming. There was always a skew towards left-wing, but now they were getting almost exclusively left-wing and far more radical. So they're more likely to be socialist, communist, etc. When before it'd be like, okay, you had more left than right. I'm backwards here. You had more left than right, but they were geared more towards the center. Now it's becoming more and more extreme. And he said he'd give out these surveys, right? And so he would ask people to identify students. Are you on the left, or are you on the right, or are you independent, centrist, etc.? So they would self-identify. Then he would give them these surveys, and these are like hypothetical questions that they would ask with multiple choice answers. And so it would say things like this. You are walking down the street and you see a homeless person asking for money. What do you do? And options might be like, you ignore the person and step over him. You kick him in the ribs and tell him to get a job. You give him the change that you have in your pocket. You help him get cleaned up and get a resume. You let him stay at your home until he can, like, the different options they would give, right? So then they would fill out these surveys and then give them back to him. And he'd say, okay, now I want you to fill the survey out again, but I want you to assume that you're on the other side of the aisle. So if you identified as a right-winger, now how would the left-wingers answer this? And what he found was, overwhelmingly, the people on the right were able to predict what the people on the left would say. But the people on the left chose, overwhelmingly, the most evil answer for the people on the right. The right wing would kick the homeless man in the stomach. The right thinks the left's stupid, the left thinks the right's evil. Now, why am I saying this when I continually say the real problem's not left versus right? It's establishment versus anti-establishment. And that's true. There are left-wingers that are anti-establishment. And they've got censored off social media, and they've got shadow banned, and they've been targeted. Of course, that's true. But the problem is, because the left has won the culture war, at least at this point, it's always ongoing, but because they're winning right now so significantly, and they are almost, huge swaths of them go along with the establishment because the establishment is paying lip service to them. That's what allows our culture to get to the point where you could be like, you could literally indict anyone in your opposition, and if the jury's made up of a group of these people with this political ideology, it doesn't matter what the facts are. It does not matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, well, and this is exactly what, if you read the Gulag Archipelago, right, there was a huge debate in this country, in the academic circles, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, was communism better than capitalism? There's a huge debate. When the Gulag Archipelago comes out, it basically ends the argument. When people see just how fucking crazy bad communism was in the Soviet Union. Despite the fact the New York Times had people talking it up, academia had people talking it up. So what happened was they realized, and like I've read accounts of this, a lot of this comes from Jordan Peterson, I'll admit, but he talks about like a lot of these like postmodernist type, they started to go to like California and they were furious. If you go to California in the 70s and 80s, it's actually a pretty conservative place. A lot of young people, a lot of, up and burgeoning economy and businesses and things like that. It was conservative. And they didn't like that. They didn't like seeing these people having fun. And so they instituted a plan. Yuri Bremenov talks about this, right? They instituted a plan, and he said it would take 2 generations. Let's see if I can find this. I don't know if I can find the visit. I think this is the video I want. It could be wrong. So this was a former Soviet, was a member of their government.
Most of the activity of that department was to compile huge volume of information on individuals who were instrumental in creating public opinion. Publishers, editors, journalists, actors, educationalists, professors of political science, members of parliament, representatives of business circles. This was my instruction. Try to get into large circulation, established conservative media. Reach filthy rich movie makers, intellectuals, so-called academic circles, cynical, egocentric people who can look into your eyes with angelic expression and tell you a lie. These are the most recruitable people, people who lack moral principles, who are either too greedy or too suffer from self-importance. They feel that they matter a lot. These are the people who KGB wanted very much to recruit. Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. It's a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s.
Let's see if there's more. It is old.
Completed. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. Exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. Basically, America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of
How many times have I said this, right? When people say, what do we do? And I'm like, we have to start making inroads culturally. There's not going to be an easy fix. It will take generations upon generations. They've been indoctrinating people for generations. It will literally take 30, 40 years. It'll be our children's children that might be able to get to a place where they can actually start winning this. I say this all the time, and people are like, no, there's got to be an easier fix. If we just vote for the one right guy, it'll all be fixed. We're so far back. We're losing so much that we're just like, geez, hopefully Trump gets pardoned. That's where we're at. Let's keep going, though.
People who think they are living at a peacetime. False. United States is in the state of war. Undeclared total war. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis. To promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth. To destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins, never mind. He will create false illusions that the
Let's see. I think there's 4 parts, though. So we'll see.
the situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control.
Some of the
After crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. In the small town of Hue in South Vietnam, several thousands of Vietnamese were executed in one night when the city was captured by Viet Cong for only 2 days. And American CIA could never figure out how could possibly communists know each individual, where he lives, where to get him, and would be arrested in one night, basically in some 4 hours before dawn, put on a van, taken out of the city limits and shot. The answer is very simple. Long before communists occupied the city, there was extensive network of informers, local Vietnamese citizens, who knew absolutely everything about people who are instrumental in public opinion, including barbers and taxi drivers. Everyone who was sympathetic to the United States was executed. Same thing was done under the guidance of the Soviet embassy in Hanoi, and same thing I was doing in New Delhi. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. It happened in Grenada. Same happened in Afghanistan. Same happened in Bangladesh. It's the same pattern everywhere. The moment they serve their purpose, all the useful idiots are either be executed entirely, all the idealistically minded Marxists, or exiled or put in prisons, like in Cuba. Many former Marxists are in Cuba. Because, you see, the useful idiots, the leftists who are idealistically believing in the beauty of Soviet socialist or communist or whatever system, when they get disillusioned, they become the worst enemies. That's why my KGB instructors specifically made a point: never bother with leftists. Forget about these political prostitutes. The psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice, they will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality.
But to eliminate the others, to execute the others, don't they serve some purpose? Wouldn't they be the ones they rely on?
They serve purpose only at the stage of destabilization of a nation. For example, your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. You have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility. If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives. The moment at least part of the United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not talking about sending...
So, just to give you an idea. Yeah, I agree. I think some of the images that they were showing What he said is absolutely right, though. The idea of destabilization. You could use the terms that you want, but that we've indoctrinated people that are true believers in this thing, right? And they become 3 generations. It's been getting more and more difficult. What will happen will be these people will believe that the people against them are morally inferior, right? And they'll justify all this stuff, and then we'll have a crisis. It doesn't have to be a single crisis, but we see, for example, you might say the pandemic would be something like this. And so then all of a sudden, it didn't matter if you showed people proof. And you were like, wait a minute, you're literally simultaneously advocating for people that are saying, on one hand, young, healthy people can't go to work. And when I say, but wait a minute, won't that harm the economy? Won't that cause mass devastation for years down the road? They said, what do you want, grandma to die? But on the other hand, we have to send COVID patients into nursing homes with elderly people. It didn't make sense on the face level of it, but we just accepted it. It was a mass accepting of it. And it got so hysterical that people were literally cheering for people to die if they challenged this, if they didn't take the medications. Huge swaths of them were cheering for it. They mocked someone like Herman Cain. Right? Democrats polled, over 50% of them said that we should be locked down if we didn't take the medications that they approved of. It was literally a policy of Biden, of the leader of this country, that he intentionally wanted to cause pain on people that weren't vaccinated. That's what we had people calling and ratting out their neighbors for having more than 10 people at their homes. This is what happened. And none of them are, almost none of them are ashamed. Saying that Ahmaud Arbery or George Floyd deserved to die is different, believe it or not. Now you won't hear me saying that shit, right? I don't say that stuff. But someone that's engaged in criminal activity, right? Or something like that. Ahmaud Arbery, I don't remember the situation of him exactly. George Floyd was someone that was in the commission of a crime who had done heinous things like pointing a gun at his pregnant woman's stomach. Two things. I differentiate, even if he committed that heinous crime in the past, that doesn't mean that he deserved to die in the incident. But it's a different thing saying, well, that person's a criminal, they deserve this. Still disagree with that. But that's different than saying, people that we want to lock you down, and if you don't like it, you deserve to die. That is a different level. And the magnitude of it, it wasn't just that, well, that would be magnitude. The quantity of people that believe that, the volume of people, it was literally the mainstream position of the Democrats. It's not equally morally gross. It's not. Again, the Arbery situation, I don't remember which one that was. Was he the younger kid that had like a wooden gun or something like that? No, it's not. But the difference, it's not the same level of morality. Saying, I think a person is a criminal and didn't comply with police, therefore they need to be shot. I think that's heinous. But that's different than saying, I think you should be locked down because I'm afraid, and if you disagree, you should die. That's worse. But I'm not disagreeing with you, and it is immoral, especially to cheer for someone who wasn't engaged in an act of violence or resisting, and to cheer for their death. But that certainly wasn't a mainstream position of the Republican Party or of conservatives. Oh, Arbery was the guy that was jogging and stopped by the guys in the truck. I've been quite consistent that I don't like, even people that I consider very bad people. I always try to look at it this way. Everybody has a family. Everyone has a loved one. So even if you have no respect for the person that died, like someone did, someone loved them, you know? So for me, that's sort of final. I'm not the final judge. That's someone more powerful than me. So I let it go. Oh, I don't disagree that both are pretty gross. I don't disagree with that. But it's different. You could do this with it. It's one of my least... to me, it's one of the dumbest arguments that I see. The both sides do it thing. Well, yeah, that's true. right? Like that, and then the argument, but not all leftists do it, right? Or I'll say Democrats did this, and someone will say, but I'm a Democrat and I didn't do that. Right, I get it, right? I say this all the time. Being a human, communicating involves having to have labels, right? Because there is so much going on that we talk about that you have to have some sort of label to sort of coalesce your thoughts to make language practical. For example, if I said Democrats in Congress support funding for Ukraine, and you said, but not all, well then in order to be precise, I'd have to say the following people that happen to be Democrats support funding in Ukraine: Schumer, Pelosi, Feinstein, and I'd have to list like 500. Like, it would make having a conversation impossible. So everyone understands implicitly, or they should, yes, we're not saying all. Similar type of argument with the, both sides do it. Like, for example, political rioting. It's true, the right has done it. Let's give you, if I am charitable and come up with it, January 6th, let's say Charlottesville. Let's throw that in there. Charlottesville's a little iffy, though, because Charlottesville basically was mutual combat. Because a bunch of shitheads from Antifa and Black Lives Matter showed up to fight with a bunch of shithead alt-righters, both armed with bats and shit like that. But let's give that one as a right-wing riot. We have hundreds of examples of left-wing riots. And I'm talking political. Not just people rioted because whatever, We're talking political riots. But you have to, they'll say both sides do it. And the argument I always give, it's like, what if we reversed it, right? What if we're in, like, the 90s, right? And I'm like, well, the Christian right was against gay marriage and blah, blah, blah. And someone says, both sides did it, the left was as well. Right, but overwhelmingly, it was more people on the right that were vocally... We understand that, or like mid-2000s, we'll say. A leftist would correctly be like, well, okay, dude, what are you talking about? We know, right? And that's what I'm like, for example, when I was on the kick or keep thing, right? We're talking about the overwhelming censorship. And this was something that was denied. It's still denied by people. But at least the evidence is pretty much indisputable at this point. But for years, I'll give you an example. Watch this.
Of chud logic.
Here's a debate that was put up that I debated Chud Logic on June 30th, 2021. And the topic of this debate was, are conservatives persecuted on social media? Deny. That was 2021. Deny. Nope, no evidence that conservatives are being censored more. Now we see it. It's blatant. We have the Twitter files. We see all of this. And the argument that, but what happened on the kick or keep thing? So we're talking about specific instance, overwhelming conservative. In fact, the Twitter files, Glenn Greenwald and them are like, we looked for evidence of Trump, or we couldn't even find one example. Couldn't find one. Well, eventually they did. The lefties dug and found one example. And they found an example of apparently Trump's team saying, like, we don't like this joke that was told about Trump. That's it. That's the one. And so when I'm on that panel, their defense of all of this mass censorship that was overwhelmingly directed at conservatives is to say, but one time Trump said he wanted a joke about him taken down. So tomato, both sides do it. Well, but the problem, average debate enjoyer, is this. It does matter if one side's overwhelmingly doing it. That matters, right? Particularly if the reaction to the people in positions of power is disproportionate to what side's doing it. So let's say, hypothetically, that we have law enforcement in this country and politicians in this country that are going to do something about political violence. If the left is committing the overwhelming amount of political violence, and yet the people tasked with solving that treat that as light as possible, and then the right's committing far less political violence, and yet they hammer down as hard as possible on that, That's a fucking problem. And to say, well, both sides do it and we should condemn it all. We'll see, Jordan. The both sides do. It is important to call out when one side's predominantly doing something. Right? And it's not just that. It's a mistake that people make. There are people that do this intentionally, but there are people that fall for this mistake over and over again, right? So, like, for example, if I say men are stronger than women. Nuh-uh! I know a woman that could kick your ass. Yes, I'm sure you do. Clearly what we're talking about is on average. If you took the top strongest 100 men and the top strongest 100 women, the women wouldn't even be remotely close. It would be complete. But seeing as how there's a sliding scale, what we're saying is the average for men's strength is going to be higher than the average for women's strength. And you could take people at the low end of men and the middle of women and find women stronger, etc., etc. It matters when we're trying to figure out what's going on in life and we're looking at things. You know, when I was in debate, this was something that came up over and over again, right? I didn't debate in high school. I started in college. I did policy debate. And I got good at it, but it was overwhelmingly left-wing, right? And there were these meta conversations about debate all the time. How do we get different types of people involved? How do we get women involved? How do we get people of color involved? How do we get gay people involved? How do we get Muslims involved? Like, all the... I thought it was all bullshit. I'm like, it's a game, right? When I played football, I wasn't like, geez, how do we get more black people on the team? I was just like, I just want the best people on the team to have fun and win. Like, you know? So when it came to women in particular, this was something, I don't know if this is true, but I'll accept that it was probably true. They said, in high school policy debate, women do remarkably well, and there are a very high percentage of participants. But then once you got into the collegiate level, their participation rates went way down, and their success rates went down. So you would routinely see the highest ranked high school debaters be women. And that probably, it could be true, I don't know. Maybe it was 50% of the time, maybe it was even more, I don't know. But it was much more rare at the top levels. Now, that's not to say there weren't great women. There were women that were way better than me at debate that beat my ass all the time, right? But this was a problem that they were trying to solve. And there was all the, well, what could be happening? And to me, it was like, well, the most obvious, I'm not saying there can't be a litany of factors, but the most obvious explanation is the women in college just don't want to do it. They're like, I don't want to waste my time on a game. I have other priorities at this point. Maybe as you start to get to adulthood, women are like, I have a priority of wanting to advance my career, or my priorities are, you know, doing things that are not necessarily as geared competition-wise. Maybe they're into art or writing or something like that. Or maybe they're more likely to want to start a family. Or maybe they're more likely to want to go out and join a sorority and party with their friends. I don't know. But I didn't see this barrier, like that, oh, well, there's this barrier that exists in collegiate debate that's stopping women, right? But they looked at it, and any difference in the numbers proved that there was some sort of bias. How so? I didn't see. You're the left of the left. You say this community's biased against women? And you see this all the time. Like, you know, probably the easiest example is, you know, violent crime. When someone says blacks make up 13% of the population but commit 50% of violent crime. Well, you're a racist for saying that. Okay, how about I phrase it this way? Blacks make up 13% of the population, but they make up near 50% of the victims of violent crime. What if I said it that way? Because most crime is committed intra-racially. Why am I not allowed to talk about it? Fuck those black victims, right? That doesn't mean that all black people are... That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's because of their race. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's an accurate point. When people say, but well, you can't talk about those numbers, you can't... Right? Of course you can. You can't solve the problem or come up with ask reasons why this occurs. Now, can you use that number to be racist? Of course you can. But just discussing that number doesn't mean you're racist. I think it's a disservice. Trying to be politically correct and ignoring that number, all that does is a disservice to the people that are victims in those communities that are overwhelmingly black. saying both sides, well, white people kill people too, and Asian people kill people too. Sure. But it doesn't really help us. How much longer till the Fortnite stream? Not for me. Alright. Wrap up here soon. Anything... But yeah, if you're the type of person who's like, blacks make up 13% of the population, they commit 50% of violent crime, therefore I don't want black people in my neighborhood, that's probably racist. Right, I don't have to look at the video. I get it. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, well, I'm not going to watch an hour video here, obviously. I tend to think, look, there could be, I don't think that there is, there's certain things that you can't say because we're constrained, because you'll get kicked off of platforms and stuff like that. I think that you could discuss nature versus nurture and things like that and not be a racist. My gut feeling is the predominant issue is it's more about geographic location and culture than anything biological. So, for example, there is a lot of poverty where I live, but the population density is not that high. But if you live somewhere where there's a lot of poverty and there's an incredible population density, you're probably more likely to experience crime and violent crime because you're sort of on top of each other and it's more stressful and crime's just sort of built into that. So, for example, where I live, a black guy in my rural town that's my neighbor that I'm mowing and waving to every day is more similar to me than a white guy that's living in inner city Chicago. Despite the fact our genetics... And again, this is a complicated conversation because I know that it's so taboo, which, sucks. But, I don't mind people gravitating towards tribalism. I think that it's inevitable. We will always be tribal. Read any science fiction novel or something, then it's like the humans that have moved to Mars are feuding with the ones that live on Earth. There'll always be tribalism, right? The group that I'm tribal about are rural Americans. That's the group that I have an affinity for, that I think gets shit on. But if your group's I'm black and my affinity is black people, or I'm white and my affinity is white people, or I'm a woman and my affinity is woman, or I'm Muslim and or I'm Christian, or I'm gay, or I'm trans, I'm not going to shit on you for that. You absolutely have the right to identify with a group and focus on issues that you think pertains to that group. There's nothing inherently wrong about that. It can be if you do that to enact bigotry and towards other groups or prejudice to other groups, then yeah, it could be wrong. If you're black and say, I don't want any white people in my neighborhood and all white people are evil, that's racist. If you're white and you say that about black people, that's racist, right? I get that, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean you're terrible for saying, hey, I'm black, and I think there are unique problems in inner city black neighborhoods. Totally true. Totally, absolutely justified to focus on those sorts of things. Get it, right? It's just not what my focus is. I really don't give a shit. And I know this pisses a lot of people off, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. 100 years after I'm dead, I would rather have people that share my ideals and share my sort of morality than people that look like me. That's how I feel. What about black people that don't want black people in their neighborhood? Oh, that's a different question. So, what'd y'all think of Vivek rapping there the other day? That was good stuff, huh? Yeah, you'd rather live with me than a bunch of Bosches, yeah. Yeah, I like Vivek so far too. There are questions. I've seen people raise legitimate questions about Vivek and things that he said in the past. He's definitely talking the talk better than Trump and better than DeSantis. That's certainly true. Yeah, I think Trump's got it on lock as well. Let's see who's on. We'll raid someone. No one. I know you could raid on YouTube and places like that. No one's ever on Twitch anymore. Welp. Let's see. Recommended channels. We raid Hassan. Here is someone with 11 people. They are a trans Republican. What do you think of that? Would that interest you? Could you all behave yourselves? Or we could just raid no one. Oh yeah, no one I know, no one I follow's streaming right now. Tuesday not a good streaming night? Is that what's going on? What's up, my Rumble audience? Thank you so much, Ryan Fern. You probably donated forever ago. Thanks so much for the $1. I really appreciate it. Cold Slice of Bread said, a guest talking about Destiny says, I feel as though Destiny refuses to debate you because you're a conspiracy theorist and there's too many conspiracies to keep track of. Yeah, that's an excuse that they use, right? Like, it's ludicrous, right? They want to think about it. If the institutions are on your side, then what you do is say, well, we just want to focus on this one thing. If the criticism's with the institutions, necessarily then you're going to have to compare two situations. So if I say this law enforcement agency has a two-tiered system, the implication is I have to talk about at least two things. This is how they treated this versus this is how they treated it on the other side, right? And what they want to do is say, no, you can only talk about this. We only want to talk about Trump. Notice they didn't have shit all to say, right? When Devin Archer and them, they don't have anything to say when the negative stories of Biden comes out. Nothing. That's a drama day. Let's talk about Andrew Tate Day. Let's talk about personal relationships day on the left. And I tell you this, I'm like, oh, they don't want to talk about this. But don't worry, an indictment's coming soon. Oh boy, now they're ready to talk about corruption and scandals and conspiracies now that it's Trump. When it's Biden, we don't have much to say. It's conspiracy theories. Dragon Owl? Alright, sounds good. We'll do that. Rate Adult Swim. Let's try. Hopefully you spelled that right. Invalid username. Alright, fuck it. We're not raiding anyone. Alright. So we'll just head out this evening, but I don't know when I'll be streaming again. It might be next Monday, unfortunately. I'll try to line something up before then, but if you missed it at the beginning of the show, we were supposed to getting carpet put in. They ripped up a bunch of the carpet, the installers, and then realized there's problems with like the subfloor, so they couldn't do it. So now I don't know what I'm looking at. When I get home from work tomorrow, I'll take a look and see what I can figure out. So I don't know. That might take up my entire week here. Dealing with that, plus just normal family stuff. But maybe not. So I might be streaming. I want the communists to win. Damn me. So, yeah, but I had fun with this stream. I have more fun. I enjoyed last night's stream. I love debating dumb lefties. That's my jam. I love that. But, you know, it's fun. Thank you, everyone that supports me. It really means a lot. I know I'm not the most consistent streamer. And that's important. Consistency is important. Knowing, it's 8 o'clock, like, think about it, your favorite TV show, if it's just sporadically on, like, maybe you youngsters won't know this. Us old-timers remember before Netflix, when you actually had to tune in to your show at a certain time every week. You know, it's it's tough, you know. And I don't get promoted. The alerts don't work most of the time and shit like that. So it's tough for people to know when I'm streaming. So I get it, and I really appreciate those that have stuck out with it. Oh, here's something that's funny I might as well bring up. You know how many people I see in comments that say like this, I bet you Rob under that hat's bald. Yeah, no shit. I didn't know I was making it a secret. Part of the reason I wear the hat now is because I am balding. That's part of it. Yep, guilty. But I'm not making it a big secret. I think I take my hat off quite frequently. It's not looking the worst. It's not very good, though. I'll give up totally on the hair eventually, and we'll just be sideburns down, like right here down, beard, you know. I have more self-respect than Tim Pool. Thanks! I guess, you know. With my hair, so. Yeah, I don't have the beanie on, right? So. Alright, I will see you all soon. Like I said, if maybe I'll catch you. If I do stream this week, it'll be between 8 and 9 o'clock p.m. I'll be starting Eastern time. So, but yeah, if you want to help me out, financial donations always appreciated. Probably the better way to help me out, small clips from my show. Put it out in your social media feed. Tell your friends. Plug me to people like Tim Pool and their producers. And try to get me on a show like that. They've had people on like Vosh and Destiny that I think that I'm much better than when it comes to debating and articulating these issues. And I'd love to have a chance to go on those sort of shows. So follow Aftershock. Yeah, Aftershock's a great guy. So, all right, thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the outro music, and as always, have a good one.